Good evening, Crimson Tide Nation, and welcome to the 16th edition of Alabama Crimson Tide College Show. Right here on Alabama The Voice College Football, where Jeffrey only taught sports and myself take your calls on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Whether you're an Alabama fan, Auburn fan, Tennessee fan, LSU fan, Florida fan, Georgia, we don't care who you pull for. We want you to come on in and discuss your takes on the Alabama Crimson Tide. And let me tell you something, folks. It's a wild ride as always, Thursday nights. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
Doing pretty good, Jackson. Like you said, it's always a wild ride, and we never know what we're going to discuss. So if you're not an Alabama fan, by all means, come on the show because we deviate and start talking about tons of other stuff, other sports teams, other sports, heck, even nothing stuff that has nothing to do with sports. It could be music, it could be TV, anything. We always have a great time, but we do try to rein it back in and talk about Alabama. Since this is an Alabama calling show, but definitely excited to talk about the Crimson Tide again tonight. And it's tough season, but next season hopefully will be a lot better and stronger, especially with our maybe future star quarterback in Keelan Russell. But definitely can't wait to get into the show tonight, Jackson.
Oh, here we go, man. And before we get to our first caller, which, by the way, the call-in link is in the chat and in the description, you can come on in and become a YouTube member at Alabama at the Voice College Football for $2.99 a month. You can become a Crimson Faithful member, where you'll get loyalty badges next to your name and in the comments and the live chat, and you get a member's shout-out, loyalty, custom emojis to use in the comments and in the live chat for $4.99 a month. You get priority replies to comments and access to a monthly hangout from yours truly and Jeffrey Ollie Talk Sports and Johnny Burt's from Crimson Tide Live Monday afternoons at 5 p.m. Central Time and $9.99 a month. You can become a Bear Bryant legend where you can connect on social media with each of us and you can give out any content request of any kind. And neither rain, nor sleet, nor snow, nor bad internet, nor any type of bad weather will stop us from fulfilling your request.
Hey, we both got snow right now, and we're still here doing the show, so the snow's not stopping us.
Hey, if the snow is coming in Florida, it's snowing right here in Bama and in North Carolina. And 3 more weeks is Valentine's Day. You know what that means? The ultimate college football gift for the college football fan in your life. Disputed national champions. College football's historical 1990s reset, where you will learn what happened during the 90s, how the decade changed sport, why the championship results should be questioned, how to critically think through the scenarios, and appreciate the accomplishments of teams that were not recognized as champions. This book provides an in-depth analysis of the changes, controversies, and outcomes that defined a decade of college football. It challenges readers to explore and critically evaluate the decisions that shaped the national championship landscape. Unlock the mysteries of college football's most debated decade. Grab your copy now. Check out the Disputed National Champions.
5-star reviews. Not going to want to miss that.
There we go. It is the ultimate college football book for the college football fan in your life. And it is the ultimate Valentine's Day gift to get for your college football fan that is your wife, your husband, each and everyone. It is.
We got an endorsement for Breakaway 34 as well with a 5-star review with saying best show on YouTube. Appreciate that, Breakaway 34. We got a top-notch book from Mark Rogers that you get for Valentine's Day. We got the best show on YouTube according to Breakaway 34. Really appreciate the honor, Breakaway 34. And we got Troy V with already the comment of the night. I'm not even going to read that, but oh my gosh. Hey, that'd be a good gift, right? I mean, let's be real.
It is the ultimate gift. And everyone, we have our first caller, and he's a first-time caller, and I am curious to hear what he has to say on the latest on Alabama football, the one and only Alabama Richie.
Hey, what's going on, you guys?
It's going pretty good. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
Not too bad. I just have a question to ask you guys. So curious on the previous season we had. We slipped up 3 games, and we're actually now 4 with the bowl game. But do y'all really think that Milroe was as bad as everybody made it out to be? Because in my opinion, after we lost to Michigan, they put him down as one of our worst quarterbacks and said you got to take into consideration, in my opinion, he stayed when a lot of guys dipped after Coach Saban. He did have 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, but we talked about this on our show on Tuesdays, talking SEC, and me and my partner, Paulie, we said that with the new system, I just don't believe that he was as bad as everybody says he was, because again, you had Tommy Reese as our OC last year, Kevin Steele as the DC, and then you have Nick Sheridan and company come in. Just wanted to see what you guys thought about everything.
Well,
It's a great question.
it was obviously the O line, that was the issue. And win or lose, like when you win, the quarterback's the hero, but when you lose, it's all on the quarterback. Where it's like, for example, Matt Ryan. When people think about Super Bowl 51, they don't ever take the time to think about that defense that was a disaster that blew that lead. It was all Matt Ryan's fault. All Matt Ryan's fault. Even though Matt Ryan wasn't on defense, that wasn't his fault that the Falcons blew it. 2022, the Colts blew a 30-point lead against the Vikings. That's not Matt Ryan's fault. But unfortunately, Matt Ryan is known for those two games. Nobody is looking at, like, for example, the 2008 Falcons Bears, where Matt Ryan led the Falcons to come from behind victory with only 8 seconds against the Bears, or the fact that he led Boston College to the ACC title game in 2007 with those game-winning touchdowns against Virginia Tech on Thursday Night Football, Clemson. So, like, whether we like it or not, the quarterback is unfortunately the fall guy for when you lose. Like,
it can go the reverse too, though, because you look at Stetson Bennett, you look at even Mac Jones for Alabama. Mac Jones was never a fantastic quarterback, but he had the best offensive line, one of the best ever at Alabama that season, and 2 of the best receivers ever. And then you look at Stetson Bennett, that Georgia team was just insane. The defense was insane. The offense was insane. And those quarterbacks are not great. They're just not. Especially, I mean, Stetson Bennett's just undersized. Mac Jones, not athletic at all. Can't make all the throws consistently, especially under pressure. But those guys were hyped up out of college because of the teams they were on. I mean, I think Milroe is a solid quarterback, but I do think the system changed this year with a new OC and no more Saban. It hurt him massively. He should have left last year. I'm glad he came back, though, because if not, it could have been worse. Honestly, this season, it really could have been. I think what really irritates people the most about this season, and I've said this several times, it's not the fact they lost 4 games. It's who they lost to and how they lost those games. I mean, you beat Georgia. You destroy LSU, but then you lose to Vandy, you lose to Oklahoma, especially how you lost to Oklahoma, and you lose to Michigan. So those are not very good teams, especially Oklahoma and Vandy. And Milroe was very turnover prone in those games, so it makes him look bad. But people have to remember how Jalen Milroe was last year. And I really feel like even with this season, if Jalen Milroe doesn't fumble against Michigan last year and Alabama wins the national championship last season, then Alabama fans would remember Milroe a lot more fondly. But unfortunately, since he didn't, everybody's just going to remember this season more and all the mistakes that he had, and that's going to be his legacy more so. And I don't really think that's necessarily fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with both of those takes for sure. And the Matt Ryan one was true. When you are a quarterback that is in a team, or when he went to the Colts and he blew that lead, I don't believe exactly what Jackson said. I don't believe that it was all his fault. But again, when you're the man at center, that's where they're going to place the blame. I will say this. I talked to some Oklahoma fans at a bar this year, and I said that you guys had a very good team this year. Not the greatest team, but, I mean, you guys did try as hard as you could, and you definitely gave your all against us. So to them, that was their national championship because they knocked off who? Alabama. Everybody tries to bring their best game. So I see it, but I still think that to put him as the worst quarterback, because I've always said this, look at who we had back in the day. Like, we had Jacob Coker have to win the job, the FSU transfer, Blake Sims, Cooper Bateman, Bear Bryant's great-grandson, Paul Tyson. So I wouldn't say he was the worst, because that USC game several years ago, Coach Saban pulled him immediately. Can't remember, it was Barnett, and he said, and I remember
Blake Barnett.
and Yeah, for sure. And then shout out to my guy Steven Smith from the Bama Standard. He used to, and I like the guy too because, and fun fact, I think he's still on Clemson's roster as an emergency quarterback, Paul Tyson. But that guy, he was like, Paul Tyson, this guy is going to be, he's got the size, he throws like this, throws like that. So I do see where you guys come from. You know, they're going to give him the blame. And we didn't, I mean, we had Jalen, not Jalen, but we had Ryan Williams, and Caleb Odom, but like, you know, it wasn't like Devontae Smith out there or like, you know, guys like we didn't have Derrick Henry. We didn't, you know, so I do see where you guys come from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Adam is pointing out that, you know, that my defense of Milroe is inaccurate because appreciate the super chat, Adam, $20 super chat. Definitely appreciate it. Always a, you know, great having you in the chat and a part of the community with what you do over at the Voice of College Football on the Rutgers channel. But you say Milroe, Booker, and the seniors brought down this team. The future's bright because DeBoer will have his own players be able to implement his scheme. Jeffrey, your defense and Milroe is indefensible. I don't agree, though, because Milroe was clearly better last season. I mean, way better last season. This year with no Saban, the GOAT, the best coach of all time, Milroe got worse. He just flat out got worse. Offensive coordinator change. Nick Sheridan is not a good offensive coordinator. I remember him at Indiana. He was bad. Kalen DeBoer was fantastic with Penix at Indiana. And then when Sheridan took over, Sheridan's just not good. I don't think he's a good offensive coordinator. I think he's a better tight ends coach, but that's my opinion. And yeah, I agree Milroe doesn't read defenses very well, but he can make killer throws. But the way I've seen with Milroe is that when he gets, you know, involved in the run game and his feet are churning, and he's moving down the field and he's scrambling around, that sets up his passing to be better. It's almost like a basketball player that has to have that first shot go in. Even if it's a layup, they just have a layup fall, then they can start knocking threes down. But if they don't have that first shot fall, then they're 0 for 12. That's just the way Milroe is to me. When he's just sitting in the pocket from start to finish and he's trying to hit players downfield, he's not good at it. But when he gets going, like against LSU, or he's running down the field and he's just blowing over all the defensive players, then he can start to pass it to Ryan Williams. But the other thing is we didn't have another weapon outside of Ryan Williams. We had nothing else. I mean, Bernard was okay, but
we got
it wasn't that great. Nothing was very good. Our running backs weren't even utilized enough. We didn't even run the ball that much. So I think Milroe was at best is an above average quarterback. I think he was a bit overhyped last year for what he did, but I also think that this season he's being overhated. I just think he's an above average quarterback at best. He's not bad. He's not trash. He's just not fantastic either.
And when we ran the ball, we won. Like, for example, against LSU, we ran the ball a lot. That helped us a lot. We ran the ball a lot against Missouri. The games we didn't run the ball a lot in were against Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. That it almost cost us against South Carolina. Those are the games most notable where we weren't running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan was another one as well.
Yeah, we didn't run the ball at all in that game. I mean,
no,
the only reason we lost that game was because we turned it over, like on our own side of the field. All those times, and Milroe did that. But I mean, again, at that point, Milroe had such a rough last few games. I mean, that carries over. It's like a kicker that misses a few kicks, and he goes on a stint where he misses 10 kicks in a row. I think Milroe, the only shot he has in the NFL of being a quarterback is if he's like a guy that can just come in and you know, be like Taysom Hill. You know, he can run. He can run some plays and maybe every now and then throw the ball, but he's not consistent enough. I don't know if he'll ever be, you know, anywhere close to a starting level QB, but he is a talented player though. He just isn't consistent.
So one other question I had, and we talked about this on our show on Tuesday. We were planning to show me and my partner, and basically what he said to me was he only believes that he'll be like Anthony Richardson, sort of, where he gave him the comparison where you get him out of pads, you put him in a shirt and shorts and really see him, you know, run around like that and make the throws, but get him in some pads and all that. Unless he gets in the right system, I like him a lot because he played for us, and I always respect who's at center because it's not my job to make that decision. It's our coaches, and they get paid X amount of dollars to make that decision. But I just think that he'll be like another Anthony Richardson, where your speed is the only thing that'll get you drafted based on they're not gushing over your arm. They're gushing over what you can do with the football. Now, he can make throws. I've never said he was sorry at that, but it's like you said, when does he make the throws? And a lot of the times they're inaccurate. So I do agree with that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, the thing is to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, it is so much harder than every other position because it's the only position where, outside of kicker and punter, where you use one guy unless he gets hurt. It's just one player. Like the rest of the positions, wide receiver, you have 3 or 4 of them out there. Tight end, 1 or 2 of them. O-line, 5 of them. And then they rotate them. You could bring backups in. So, I mean, you can be an average lineman and maybe be a backup for a few years. But at quarterback, I mean, there's 32 starting ones, and then you have a backup. Some teams only run with just a backup, but then you have the third string on the practice squad. Like, you have to be really, really good to be an NFL level quarterback. It is a lot harder than the other positions. So I feel like when guys don't make it, people just assume they sucked. And it's like, you don't know how good you have to be a starting quarterback. It is really hard. Like, if Milroe never is a quarterback in the NFL, ever he starts or plays or whatever, it doesn't mean he was awful. You know what I'm saying?
He can always come on here on Alabama with the Voice of College Football. So if we got an invitation for him, so more than merrier. Come on in, Jalen.
I mean, I always laugh because people trash the journeyman quarterbacks. I mean, like Brian Hoyer and stuff, guys like that. It's like, well, they've made a career for themselves just bouncing from team to team and being available. And even if they never do anything noteworthy, I mean, they made millions of dollars being a backup quarterback. And it's not easy. You still have to be somewhat good to be a backup quarterback. I mean, it's just funny when people trash
Brian Fitzpatrick's a perfect example of a journeyman quarterback. Although, I always think about where Chris Berman calls him Fitzmagic, I believe.
It's funny.
He's a funny dude. I mean, what can I say? He's still got that touch on NFL primetime on ESPN Plus.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to hop off and get someone else up here, but appreciate you guys.
Alabama Richie, it was nice meeting you, and don't be a stranger. We
appreciate you coming on.
You're more than welcome to come back on the Alabama Call-In Show anytime you want, man.
I appreciate it. I'll be here as much as I can. Roll Tide. Love this school like everything, and hope you get the job done. I will ask you this real quick. So as much as as much as Ty Simpson has been loyal to our program, do you believe that it's Keelan's time? Because we mentioned this on Tuesday on our show, that we think that because of NIL being a factor, that if he doesn't see the field this first year, he may look at a school or get somebody chirping his ear going, NIL, because we give the comparison of Lenora Sellers at South Carolina. He turned them completely around. After they lost to us, they unfortunately lost to Illinois in the bowl game. But what they did was incredible this year after losing to us. And I think Lenore's was a huge factor. But do you think this is Keelan's time? I'd like to see what both of y'all think. And then also, do you think that it forces Mack or Simpson to transfer?
Well, I could see that. I've been saying that I think it's time for the Keelan Russell era, but Jeffrey's not just yet.
Well, I mean, the problem is that there's really not a big list of guys that start as freshmen in college football, true freshman year, and have success. It can happen, and he is very, very, very talented, but you don't want to throw him into the fire, and he struggles early, and then Bama fans just want to give up on him. That's what I'm worried about. He has a bad game early on, week 3, week 4, whatever, and then people are just like, oh, he's done. I mean, kind of like how they were throwing Milroe under the bus after the Texas game. And then he was benched. In the South Florida game, we brought out Tyler Buckner, which was probably the worst quarterback that ever played for Alabama ever in history. So that's your answer, Alabama Richie, for me. I would say Tyler Buckner. That was awful.
Oh, the way Buckner played, he made Jameis Winston look like Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, he's a good lacrosse player. He can do that, just not a great quarterback. But the thing is that, Keelan Russell, if he can come in and just play well right out of the gate, then it's all good. But we've seen Tennessee sit Nico for a year. Oklahoma sat Jackson Arnold for a year. Then they got rid of Dylan Gabriel so he wouldn't leave, and then it didn't even work out. So it's it doesn't always pan out. You don't want to throw all your eggs in the basket. I mean, I feel like Ty Simpson, if he's any good, if he has any worth at all, then he'll have a shot to start. If he's not, and Keelan Russell just takes the job immediately, then Ty Simpson was never the guy. He was never going to be a starting quarterback at Bama. We haven't seen enough of him because I've gotten a lot of flack for saying I don't trust Ty Simpson at all either. But every time he's come into the game, he hasn't looked good. But he hasn't played much. You can't really, say a quarterback's no good just off a little bit of time seeing him. But like when we saw, other quarterbacks in the past for Bama come in, like Tua comes in and instantly just runs away with it. And the thing is, he peaked in that first game, which is so funny. And he never really did as well after that, even though he still was good. But I mean, I feel like if Ty Simpson's any good, he'll be the starter. But if Keelan Russell is, I mean, I guess that's a good thing for us to see what he can do, and hopefully he pans out. But if he doesn't, then I'm worried.
For sure. Well, I'll catch up with you guys later. Y'all have a good one, and roll Tide to both of y'all.
Roll Tide, and check out Alabama Richie right here on @/Twitter.
Catch y'all later.
Man, that was a great call. I tell you what.
Absolutely.
Because I like when he calls in again next week, we'll all have to go over like when we became Alabama fans at some point during the
yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Man, it's like, and agreed with Adam. Jeffrey is the go-to, like great analysis. Like he's a go-to on not just the Alabama Call-In show, but on Indiana at the Voice College Football and on Only Talk Sports, where he talks sports every single day, or at least tries to.
Appreciate it, Jackson. Appreciate it, Adam, as well. Always great seeing you when you come on the show. And here he is right here. We got Adam right here.
There we go. And first off, Adam, I would like to say congratulations on getting past 1,000 subs on Rutgers at the Voice of College Football.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Jackson. I appreciate it. Hoping to build that Rutgers channel and bring more attention to Rutgers football.
There we go. And before we get to your take on the latest on Alabama football, what's your advice for some of the small channels at the Voice College Football? What magic secrets can they learn from you?
Number one, make very interesting content. Number two, make shorter videos that people can watch that are interesting. And number three, use the YouTube promotions feature where they will promote your videos. If you pay a certain amount of money, that will attract subscribers and attention.
Okay. That's perfect.
Good advice.
There we go.
So, yeah. So Jeffrey, like I said in my comments, your future is very bright. You're a very smart guy, and you have great insights. Now, when it comes to Alabama, I think the future is very bright, and I'll tell you why. For the last 2 years, we've essentially been held hostage to Lank and Milroe and his seniors. So let's look back a couple of years. Look at Milroe's performance against Texas A&M in one of the last games of the year. Then let's look at his performance against Texas the next year, and then against Michigan in the playoff. And then let's look at his performance against Tennessee and OU, but most importantly against Michigan this year. The problems he had against Michigan this year were the exact same problems he had the year before. Struggling to read defenses, scrambling horizontally in the pocket, and no pocket presence. And I think that there was a group of people in that Alabama locker room, Jalen, Milroe, Tyler Booker, who I think is a loudmouth, who did every interview he could get talking about playing murder ball, after which they would get murdered. I think it was a toxic impact in the locker room. Now, Kalen DeBoer is a great coach. Alabama has talent. I think the future is very bright because I think they're going to have a new quarterback and a new culture, which I think was the biggest problem at Alabama. Now, who's going to be that quarterback? I can't say Ty Simpson because I don't know about you, but when I saw Ty Simpson play, it was blah. I don't know if he's going to be the starting quarterback or if Austin Mack will be, or if, the incoming freshman will be. But I do think that Milroe was a great politician, but not a great player. And I think that combined with NIL, it created a culture in the locker room that ultimately led to our downfall, because the problems with Milroe persisted year after year, and we lost to Michigan 19-13 for the same reason we lost to win the playoffs. So I think the future is bright because Milroe and his senior class is gone.
Well, and you did say Notre Dame would win it all. I think it was like during the preseason, I believe, was it like, or was it like a little bit after they played Texas A&M?
I said that Notre Dame would win it all, and people told me to see a psychiatrist, and that I was delusional, and that I was crazy, but I was pretty close because I thought this Notre Dame team had a defense that was different from prior Notre Dame years. But I think against Ohio State, they got off their game. I just don't think they played very well. And I think Ohio State just was the better team. Although I don't think Ohio State was among the best teams to win a national championship in the last 10 years. I think they earned it, and I congratulate them, and they deserve it.
After they lost to Michigan, they woke up. I mean, that's clearly what happened. We didn't see it happening. I thought after they lost to Michigan that they were defeated. They were upset. They just the vibes around the program were not good. But when they came out against Tennessee, it was exactly the opposite of what most people were expecting. Most people thought they might win that game. I actually picked Tennessee, but I did pick Ohio State the rest of the way. After they played like that, I'm like, okay, they're on a mission. And they ended up playing up to their potential at the end of the season after the Michigan game. Because against Michigan, they were terrible. And yeah, they missed 2 field goals. But even if they won that game, they still were terrible. But after they lost, it woke them up. And see, with a 14 playoff, they would have never had a shot to win it all, which is why, like you said, having, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever is better. But 12-team playoffs still disagree with, but I'm not going to get into all that. But a 14 playoff would have never given this team a chance to win it all. So they are very fortunate for that. But I don't think your prediction of Notre Dame was bad. Notre Dame had an easy schedule. They had a good team, and they played pretty well in the playoffs. I mean, they're not bad. The problem is they didn't have a vertical threat. They had no vertical threat downfield. And basically, I look at Notre Dame and Penn State as very similar football teams. They're teams that recruit very well, but they don't recruit among the top 3 to 4, and they never have vertical talent. I mean, they never have a receiver that can just beat you over the top. Like, look at the play that ended the game. Ohio State was kind of on the ropes. Notre Dame tried to come back and win. Jeremiah Smith over the top. Imagine Jeremiah Smith plays for Notre Dame. I mean, it's a completely different situation. Penn State and Notre Dame do not have vertical talent. That's why they unfortunately have a very difficult shot of ever winning a national championship.
Well, I mean, it may be a difficult shot, but that's the closest we've seen in our lifetimes, like at least in mine and Jeffrey's lifetimes, that we've seen Notre Dame get to a national title. And
they were a good team.
Yeah, because I mean, I think honestly, we will see Marcus Freeman get Notre Dame a national title. It's not a matter of if, but when. I mean, because like I like him a lot better than when they had Brian Kelly.
They have to be able to recruit just a little bit better if that's even feasible. I don't know if it is, because they're already recruiting basically as best as they can.
Well, here's the thing.
Because, I mean, there's going to be a lot of young men that want to play for Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, and I think he's a great coach. But when I look at Michigan and Notre Dame, there's something that sticks out to me.
Okay.
And that is that Michigan and Notre Dame are very elite academic institutions. So the players that they recruit are smart players. And you cannot underestimate how much you can make up for in talent disparity with intellectual superiority. And what I saw when Alabama played Michigan, both last year and this year, was a defense that was smart, and Notre Dame that had players that were intelligent. And I think intelligence is a critical factor in success. And so some people say Notre Dame or Michigan should lower their admission standards to, recruit more players. I think the opposite. If you have smart players, they will outsmart players with better talent. And I think intelligence is highly underrated as a factor in success.
I think it's a great point. I mean, absolutely. I feel like a lot of people would disagree just because Alabama won all those national titles under Saban, but I think it's because of Saban being as good of a coach as he was that he was able to get the maximum that he could out of a lot of players that don't have, the I guess, like you said, the intellectual ability to, be a smart player. But he was able to get some of that out of him with the massive amount of talent. Because, I mean, we saw Georgia win 2 national titles with so much talent. And I've never felt the culture at Georgia was very good. It's never been good. They don't recruit those type of guys. I mean, some, but not a lot. And you saw this past year, their culture. You mentioned Bama's culture was bad. I think Georgia's culture was absolute trash. It was absolutely trash.
They're always drunk driving.
Their team was worse. Wasn't as talented this year, but that culture was awful. And that's why
you're right. And so there's a reason why the NFL makes players take the Wonderlic test before, as part of the drafting process. They want to see where their IQ is at generally. Mm-hmm. And what you see is a correlation between high scores on the Wonderlic, like, for example, Tom Brady, and performance. I think that colleges should do the same thing. You don't have to have a 130 IQ to be an amazing college football player, but if you have a 115 IQ, that matters, and that can reduce the talent disparity. So for next year, what I'm thinking is I'm going to make a very early prediction that Alabama will be in the national championship game because they are going to have a defense that is going to be very, very, let's just say, elite. They are going to have an offense that will be a work in progress. But teams that win national championships don't have to have great offenses. They have to have great defenses. Mm-hmm. And I think Alabama might be looking like Michigan of 2023 next year, and that's okay with me because that reminds me of the Alabama teams under like A.J. McCarron and the teams in the 2014, 15, 16 era that would be successful. But, guys, great show. I love this show. Jackson, thanks as much always for the support. Jeffrey, you got a really bright future. I appreciate your intelligent commentary as always. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Adam. Check out
Jackson,
Adam on
congrats on the Rutgers channel. You're doing fantastic.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Out on SC Trojans 97 on @/Twitter and on Adam Lamparello on Instagram.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.
You too.
You too, Adam.
Adam Lamparello is definitely a go-to in all of college football, not just Rutgers, but all of college.
And like Doc P said as well, that's here on the channel.
There we go.
How can you refute that?
There you go. And we thank you again, Adam, for the super chat for tonight's edition of the Call-In Show. Well, all righty. Have you seen the way too early top 25 this week?
I've looked at it. I talked about it on Tuesday night when it comes to Indiana's perspective on Indiana, the voice of college football. And Indiana's ranked. So, isn't that good, right? Indiana's actually ranked. So, Indiana getting a little recognition. But, yes, from the Alabama perspective, though, there's been a lot of talk. And we'll get to that. There's a lot of talk. Alabama's not in the top 5 like normal. It's a little bit different. We're going to have to earn our way back, right?
Oh, true. So, I mean, I'm looking at ESPN's, for example. We're at 12, or is it 14? There it is, number 12. We're above Illinois. Like, me personally, I kind of like it that we're out of the top 10.
Yeah, we're out of the limelight for the first time in a while. I mean, it's hard to say that number 12 isn't in the limelight, but for Bama standards, I mean, we're always ranked in the top 5 in way too early polls. But, hey, number 12, lost 4 games. I mean, being ranked number 12 to start the year is not going to hurt like Alabama's chances of making the playoffs. The only one thing that's going to hurt Alabama's chances of making the playoffs is another rough season. Because I've seen some people say like, oh, well, if you're ranked lower in the top 25 to start the year, hurts your chances of getting in. That was more of the case in a 14 playoff, and in a 12-team playoff, you don't have that excuse. I mean, Indiana was ranked like 75th in the FBI rankings at the beginning of the season, and they made the playoffs. because they won their games. Alabama just needs to have a better season next year. Like people talking about, disrespect. Rankings don't matter at this point. And like with recruiting rankings, it's so frustrating. Like I said earlier, and I'm probably going to get some backlash from Michigan fans, but I wrote that about Bryce Underwood on my Twitter account or X account, saying that, oh, he's now ranked number 3 in Rivals instead of number 1. Oh, that's insane. And it's like, does that matter? It doesn't matter, because if Bryce Underwood ends up being the best quarterback in college football in the next few years for Michigan, if he's number 1, if he's by far the best quarterback, that's what matters, not what his ranking is. I know optically it looks good, but you could be the number 1 ranked quarterback and suck. And that's happened before. So that doesn't matter. Bryce Underwood just needs to be the best for Michigan fans to be satisfied with their investment of him. I mean, they've spent a lot of money to get him. But, that's my thing. And in the case of Bama here, yeah, some Bama fans are upset, but we got to do better next year. We can't lose 4 games and be expected to be ranked in the top 10 in an early poll. So, and we don't even know, maybe if Bama has a good spring game, they can be ranked in the top 10 in the first AP poll, but this is just the way too early. It's just a lot of question marks. We don't even know who Alabama's quarterback is going to be. We have no idea. No. So I think 12 is a good spot.
Oh, great. Like that. But that is, of course, according to ESPN. Who does Yahoo? Where does Yahoo Sports have Alabama? Where's Bleacher Report? Where's CBS Sports? What do Ari Wasserman and Andy Staples have to say? Well, let's take a look from this article from Bama Online from Charlie Potter at On3. Well, because I was waiting on the line today when I was calling in the Feinbaum show, and I heard Andy Staples himself talking with Paul Feinbaum. He said there wasn't just any place to put Bama. Like we just thought out of the blue. We're just gonna put them at number 14 because it was like.
But see, that's the way a way too early poll is, though. You're just putting teams in spots that you feel. You know what I'm saying? Like we have no evidence to even go off of. So him saying that, I mean, that's accurate. It's just an educated guess at this point.
Yeah. And there's a Bill Bender's top 20, way too early, top 25. Shout out to Bill Bender from the Sporting News, a very good friend of the Voice of College Football Network, who comes on with Mark at least every week. Check him out. He has Alabama at 8, and here's why. Quote, Caleb DeBoer has had an up and down first season with the Crimson Tide. The pressure will be on to return to the college football playoff in a crowded SEC. There also were 24 players who transferred out. Miami receiver Isaiah Horton was among the 8 players who transferred in, and he joins a solid receivers core with Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard. Jam Miller is back at running back. Is Ty Simpson the answer at starting quarterback? Well, that's a lot of questions from all of us. Tim Keenan will anchor the defensive line that should improve in year 2 with defensive coordinator Kane Womack. Alabama's Florida State, Wisconsin, non-conference play before the usual grinder. I mean, that's what I have is like considered like an unpopular opinion, and according to some of Bama Nation, which I mean, and I'm okay with us having the tough non-conference schedule. I like that we got Florida State, Wisconsin, because like we beat them. If they like Florida State, Wisconsin have like a better season, let's say we go 10-2. Hey, we're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends on how good those teams are, because neither team was good last year. So if they're bad again and Bama beats them, it doesn't do anything. I mean, I get people's frustration with the bad non-conference games, but it's like I've said before, you can't really do anything about a lot of these teams scheduling nobody, because as you've seen, scheduling nobody helps you out. It gives you a better chance to win. It gives you a better chance to not get beat up as the season goes along. The strength of schedule doesn't really matter. Notre Dame got into the playoffs. Indiana got into the playoffs. Tons of teams got into the playoffs with a bad strength of schedule. So even though I would prefer to have the tough non-conference games, it's not worth it. I get where you're coming from, and I agree. But you have to make the games actually help, like be important to like helping you, be ranked higher and making the playoffs. So if you have like a 2014 playoff and then you schedule a tough non-conference, you can get in at 8-4. Yeah, that's fine, but I don't want a 2014 playoff, none of that.
Oh no.
So, and I agree with Troy, and this has been overblown. Out of conference didn't hurt the teams that didn't make it. It was losing to bad conference teams. Alabama hurt themselves by losing to 2 garbage teams in the SEC. That's why they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, like, for example, Alabama next year can beat Florida State, beat Wisconsin, but still lose to 3 teams in the SEC, and a couple of them are maybe not good teams again. They're not making the playoffs. So these non-conference games, the non-conference games honestly hurt more when you were in a 4-team playoff. Remember that one year, Oregon, right? Oregon, was it Ohio State that year? It was back when Herbert was at quarterback.
Mhm.
I don't know if they played Ohio State that year, but they played a really tough team in the non-conference. But then later on in the year, they lost that game at Arizona State.
That was 2019.
Yeah,
when
who did they
Oregon
lose in the
started
non-conference?
Auburn in week 1 at the Jerry
Auburn.
Dome.
Thanks, appreciate it. So that game, it was Auburn, and they lost. And if they didn't have that game and only lost to Arizona State, they would have been in the college football playoff. But they didn't because they had the Auburn loss, and then they lost to Arizona State on the road back when Jaden Daniels was there, and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my point with out-of-conference games, is that they hurt more when it was just the BCS or when it was a 14 playoff. They don't hurt as bad now, but they're still not really worth it, though. It's just hard to justify. I kind of feel like if you're a team like Wisconsin that's not going to make the playoffs, you're going to have a mid-year, play a Bama, whatever. You're not going to make the playoffs anyway. And, I've always looked at it like a team like Indiana when they were bad. Don't schedule anybody because you want to get to 6 wins. But it's just a tough way to look at it. I mean, they're good for the sport to have the tough games, but on the same time, it's just not that, it doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't help you out, to play these games. But I see why people want them, but it's just frustrating. But when you look at these rankings, though, I mean, USA Today Sports having Alabama at 3, it's like, okay. That's not a typo, right?
No.
I mean, why would you have them at 3 when they went 9-4?
Let's see it. Who was it at USA Today exactly? Because they're kissing up to us if they're saying that. It's like, come on.
I mean, that's dumb.
Paul Meyerberg and Eric Smith from USA Today.
I don't agree. I mean, that's cool that they believe in our Crimson Tide, but I don't agree, man. I mean, I think anywhere from 8 to 14 is fair. 8's a little bit high in my book, but I like 12. I mean, yeah, I wish Bama was ranked higher, but they don't deserve it. They went 9-4 and lost to 3 average teams at best. It's not a team that's worthy of being in the top 10 to start next season. 3 is insane. That's absolutely insane. We have War Irish 12 in the chat. Appreciate you for stopping by. This is Notre Dame fan here. What will the vibe be around Tuscaloosa? Kalen DeBoer goes 9-3 again. Not good. Honestly, not good. Because Alabama fans want to make the playoffs. They want to have a shot to win a national title every single year. And the problem is that we're at a point now where making the playoffs is easier than ever before. You have a 12-team playoff. If you miss a 12-team playoff, it's even more embarrassing. Like, if Alabama had lost 2 games this year, and the 2 losses were to Tennessee and Georgia, for example, right, Jackson, and they finished like 6th in the country, and we missed the playoffs, would people really be hating on Kalen DeBoer that much? No, not that much. Not that much, right? Because you lost to 2 really good teams, and you missed a 4-team playoff. The problem is that it's a 12-team playoff, and you lost to 2 bad teams. So I think depending on who they lose to next year to go 9-3, it would depend. But that would most likely mean they don't make the playoffs again, and that's not what Alabama fans want. Especially with this 12-team playoff era, you got to make the playoffs when you have a top 5 roster or a top 10 roster at the very least. I do agree with Breakaway 34, though. He would get a 3rd year. Even if they go 9-3 again next year, he will get a 3rd year, but it's just going to be harder for him to claw back from it, to get the fan base back, because more Alabama fans are going to turn on him if that happens, especially depending how they go 9-3.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's in trouble if he goes 9-3.
Well, I agree with Troy V's comment. Don't you have to give him time to get players to fit his system? I say year 3 would be the time for panic to set in. The problem is, though, is we're in the portal era. We're in the NIL era where guys are turning around programs in a single season these days. The leash is shorter. You don't get as much time. The days of Neil Brown and the mediocrity for like 6-7 years that happening it's going to be reduced. You're not going to see that as much. I mean, the amount of money that's being poured into these programs and the donors want to win. And if you're not doing it, you're done. Look at Luke Fickell. He's in year 3 and people are already just wanting to give up on him. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same era of college football anymore. You have to win.
There we go. And we have the host of College Football Nightcap, the one and only himself, Lucas Hill. How you doing tonight, man?
What's up, fellas? Jackson, I've been seeing a lot of you lately. Jeffrey, where in the heck have you been?
I've been busy. I've had a lot of stuff going on. I definitely have not been on YouTube as much recently. Some people have said that, but I'm going to try to get back and be more active.
There you go.
There you go.
What are we talking about today, fellas? We talking about how Alabama hopefully won't crap the bed for next season.
Yeah, I mean that is the hope. I mean, I'm not in panic mode. I'm not in depression mode right now. I think there's a shot they're going to be really good next year, but there is a chance that they're not great either, because we don't know how the quarterback situation is going to play out. There's still a lot of question marks.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Kalen DeBoer prefers a drop-back quarterback about like what Michael Penix was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Milroe wasn't that. I talked to an Alabama fan earlier today who's my boss. Mm-hmm. He said that Jalen Milroe was the second worst quarterback that Nick Saban had. And you're going into your first year with a brand new offense and a bunch of dudes that you really don't know what to expect from year one. Because, again, you're going into a first year where you lost a lot of dudes to the draft in 2024. Now you have going into next year, you're losing C.J. Dupree, you're losing Malachi Moore, you're losing Jihad Campbell and Tyler Booker. And so who do you have coming in? Well, you do have to consider this. Ty Simpson's more of your guy. Ty Simpson, to me, if he is like what Jake Coker was in 2015 for Bama, Alabama's going to be just fine because they're going to be throwing the football to Ryan Williams a lot. They still got to find out the tight end situation, but I think they got a couple of O-linemen coming in from the portal. I think if you get all that together, whether it be Ty Simpson or whether Keelan Russell takes over the starting job, which I've heard that could potentially happen, when you bring back J.M. Miller, when you bring back Jeremy Bernard, I think those two are going to be the number 1s and 2s targets for Bama going into next year. I think it's going to be a much improved offense than what you saw last year with Milroe because you just saw no consistency whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only thing I'm worried about, though, is using your comparison with Jake Coker is that, I mean, he had Derrick Henry. We don't have that. We do not have a running back like that.
What you hating on J.M. Miller for?
J.M. Miller's good, but he's not Derrick Henry.
J.M. Miller got more touches this year. I guarantee you, this dude would have had 500 to 750 yards rushing. I guarantee you. The problem is that when you're in a pass-first system with what Kalen DeBoer's offense is, the problem with that is you're not going to get enough touches from your backs. You're going to get maybe 5-10 touches a game, and that's exactly what J.M. Miller got. And I think that with a brand-new quarterback going into this system, I think this is the year where Kalen DeBoer really takes a step back and looks at it and says, I need to get my running backs involved. I need to get guys like that involved this year. And so I think this is really the year that you can get involved with that. What Jake Coker did in 2015 is that he was consistent. You know, I mean, he had dudes to throw the football to. It wasn't just Derrick Henry all the time. I mean, sure, the dude ran for 2,000 yards and won the Heisman Trophy. Why wouldn't you give the freaking dude the rock? But what he did do was play consistent football. That's something that Alabama lacked from their quarterback room last year. They're going to need it this year to get back into the national title hunt.
I do have to ask you, though, because I'm curious. When you said earlier that your boss said Milroe was the second worst quarterback under Saban. Who did he have as the worst?
He said he had McElroy as the worst.
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were including. He was including like Barnett. I didn't think he was including him.
Oh,
he was so brief.
Hey, maybe that means we'll see Jalen Milroe on the SEC Network or ESPN.
Blake Sims wasn't great either, though. I mean, he was not the best.
Well,
I don't know. I mean, Coker was propped up. Mac Jones was propped up, but
Blake Sims had a much better season than what Milroe had and McElroy. Look, I think McElroy got a lot of hate for really nothing, to be honest with you. I mean, he was a pretty decent quarterback. The problem was, I mean, when you're just throwing to Julio Jones, it's kind of hard to just throw it to somebody else, you know. But no, fellas, I just wanted to hop on here, come say hello for a little bit. Hey, y'all come holler. I'm literally about to go live in about 5 minutes or so. So once y'all get done with that, y'all come holler. Come holler at us on the StreamYard. Thank you for dropping the links down below. College Football Nightcap at Lucas_Hill23. Follow me on Instagram at Lucas_Hill_17. Guys, Jackson. Oh, dadgummit. I done lost your name again.
Jeffrey.
It's been too long, brother.
I gotta.
The two J's screwed me up.
I gotta appear more often on YouTube again. I'm getting forgotten.
When you watch his intros on Only Talk Sports, you'll be able to remember it a little more. That I could guarantee. Because he does his intros, shakes his head yes, and then shakes his head no.
Jeff, Jackson, we'll see you guys later. Y'all have a good rest of the stream.
Appreciate it, Luke.
Stay safe, stay warm. It's cold out. Man, that was a legendary call from Lucas Hill, man. He is a go-to on College Football Nightcap and on Lucas Hill, Lucas_23, and on Lucas_Hill_17. And we got a Buckeye, a very good friend of the voice of college football, coming on in here to celebrate the one and only David Greenshield, a.k.a. Dr. Buckeye.
That's right. Right here. There you go.
Ohio State is
there you go.
Champions.
OH, buddy. Was there ever any doubt in Ryan Day? Was there ever any doubt?
Ryan Day was on the brink of getting fired.
Was there ever any doubt, gentlemen? Come on now. Was there ever any doubt? Oh,
when they beat Tennessee the way they did, I'm like,
yeah.
I was so glad the Buckeye. I was so glad you guys smacked Tennessee off the face of the earth, because if anything, that was my favorite game off the playoff path. Because those balls were just run at the stadium, were running their mouth. We're gonna own Columbus, and then like all those players were showing, we're not very cold. We're gonna show our stomachs, our six pack to show we're not scared. Like, yeah, you're so scary. Ohio State smacks you off the face of the earth.
By the way, did you hear McAfee came at them? He says that those weren't six packs; those were a bunch of dad bods. They were running. He was like the personal trainer at Tennessee needs to get fired. By the way, whoever the strength coach is at Tennessee needs to get fired. They show these guys out there with their shirts off, warming up before the game. It was sad. It was really, really bad.
Might be drinking too many six packs. Am I right?
They looked like they were trained by Bert Kreischer.
That's right. Shout out Bert. Yeah.
Like that dude. Oh my God, he's a complete and total.
There's a difference between being 265 pounds of pure muscle and 265 pounds of just you're big. There's a big difference. There's a big difference.
That dude, you ever want to see like a dude that really sucks as a comedian?
Yes.
Bert Kreischer's one, because he's like he thinks he's like the most famous dude ever. When it's like, oh, you ever heard the Machine? It's like, no. It's like and he like loses his crap. And like a year earlier, he goes on like the McAfee show. Like when CJ Stroud was on there, and he's like doing his little shirtless routine, doing those little push-ups, like he was like one of those strong dudes. And then Tom Segura, his buddy from the Two Bears One Cave podcast, has just has just that deadpan look. Like he's smiling, but it has a "what the hell am I doing with my life" face.
Jackson's on a roast right now.
Boy, wow. See, I've
He's
heard of
taking-
him.
he's
I've
taking
never
my
caught his
place.
stand up. Wow.
But
Yeah, Jackson's.
taking my
Now
place.
I'm used to Gunsmoke references. Now I get Tom Segura references. So that's
Hey,
interesting.
Jackson's versatile. He's very versatile.
Yes.
I do my best to keep up with a lot of things because if I'm not, then I'm not doing a good job.
There you go. I will say, even SEC fans I meet don't like Tennessee fans, by the way. Like I told you guys, I've met like SEC people that don't even like Tennessee fans. They do
It's
this
the social
98
media.
chant, and, they say that they're just too boisterous for a program that's accomplished nothing in the last, however, 20-some years or whatever. But, yeah, Jackson, I have to say this. Since we're talking Alabama here, the first Ohio State game I watched, or one of the first Ohio State games I remember, was Ohio State Alabama in the kickoff classic.
Oh,
in
1986.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Man, that's a throwback.
Dude, yeah, it was like on Raycom 1 or something like that. It was like one of those old networks. It was crazy. It was in East Rutherford, New Jersey. They had it at Giant Stadium. And Perkins was the coach. And we had Earl Bruce and two future NFL Hall of Famers in that game, Derek Thomas and Chris Carter, by the way. Yeah. Yeah. We couldn't get the ball. 16-10, you guys got us. It was a close game. It was a good game.
That 86 season, like one of the most noble games was that game against Notre Dame. Cornelius Bennett, the sack. Oh my God. Love looking back at that game from those little Bama's Greatest Games VHS tapes.
Yeah, the Penn State guys finally got you. I know you guys, Penn State has an awful record against you guys, but they got you guys at Legion Field that year. Well, that was the year they won the national title when Vinny Testaverde went colorblind and decided to throw the ball to Penn State. So,
like, I wish, it's too bad that they didn't play each other. I almost wish that Penn State didn't join the Big Ten, because this way we could have seen Alabama, Penn State turn into like the northern version of Notre Dame, USC, because like that had hype written all over it. I mean, the goal line stand from the 79 Sugar Bowl, Bear Bryant tying Amos Alonzo Stad's wins in 1981. Then we're beating Penn State in 82. Penn State upsets us in 83. Desperation block in 1989. It's like, oh my God, like there are so many games from that underrated
And now
series.
people today is like, Bama, Penn State, that's nothing. It was big games in the past.
That's what we're here for at Alabama with the
Jackson,
voice.
That's right.
Opponent for Bama, Georgia Tech too, and that's really a throwback.
Well, yeah, there you go. Shout out the Bear 4-0 against Paterno, I believe, right?
Yep.
4-0.
1975 Sugar Bowl, 1979 Sugar Bowl, 1981, 1982.
Yep. What was the only coach? Darrell Royal and I think Ara Parsegian are the only coaches to have winning records against them.
Yes. Unbeaten, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Yeah. Darrell Royal had his number. When Tommy Novus on the goal line stand at Joe Namath, Jackson.
Oh, yeah. And we tied in the 1960 Blue Bonnet Bowl, 17, I believe.
The Blue Bonnet Bowl.
And that was the first game in the history of Alabama football where we wore our iconic red helmets.
Yeah. Well, that was a game where, Bear Bryant went and took the wishbone from Darrell Royal.
Yeah.
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 Credited him for a lot of his success in the 70s when he turned it around after, kind of some down years in the late 60s.
Oh yeah. 1967 through 1970, that was pure hell for us.
Yeah. Woody had the same thing, except he turned it around in the late 60s and then flipped it around at Ohio State with his 68 team.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Smacking Michigan off the face of the earth. Well, why'd you go for 2? Well, we couldn't go for 3.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. I by the way, I just did I say thank you guys for Caleb Downs one more time? Can I say that to the Alabama people? Is thank
NIL. Thank you,
yes.
NIL.
Thank you. Caleb, dude, he is awesome, by the way, at the game of football, man. I have to say, he's going to be remembered as one of the best safeties ever at Ohio State.
He was good at Bama.
Yeah.
I mean, the era now of Bama losing starters to other teams, man. I never thought we'd see the day of that, but here we are.
Yeah. Well, Saban said that was what, didn't he say that's the one player he was going to miss coaching the most?
Well, I'll tell you this, Dr. Buckeye.
Yeah.
I'm glad you talked about Caleb Downs because Johnny and I Monday afternoon talked a little bit about Caleb Downs, talking about how he really didn't want to leave Alabama. But for a Cliff Notes version, we got the video clip on Alabama with the boys college football. Like,
yeah, I had to tease Uncle Lou the other night about him getting out of the state of Georgia too, by the way.
Oh man.
In recruiting, you know. I thought he came from that one area in Georgia that Georgia never gets players out of, which is like Buford, which is that one part of Georgia that Georgia never seems to recruit very well. Or at least I've heard that in the past. I've
watched a little bit of Uncle Lou. I probably need to watch him a little bit more, to be honest. Although I did remember like watching one caller where he was saying, "Oh well, Josh Pate, is that guy that paints your team color and just plays with his which I'm not gonna say the full part because
wow,
yeah, it's I'm like you're
I don't mind Pate. I think Pate does a solid job, by the way.
Oh, yeah, when I have more time to actually watch videos like YouTube a lot of the time, I don't have as much time. But when I used to have a lot of time, I would watch Josh Pate a good bit about 3 or 4 years ago. And I mean, I like him pretty well. I feel like the reason people get tired of like what he does because I feel like he has like his stick, right? Where he has like his like Pate State and like his top 25, and it's cool. Like I like it. I think it's cool, but like people watch it and then they just get irritated with it. And like when I would like wait for him to talk like other stuff, like he would only talk about like the big teams, which is fair because like those get the attention. But like I kind of like when people talk about other stuff as well. I like Josh Pate though. Overall, I do like Josh Pate. I think he does a great job, and I've always liked this story too because he came out of nowhere, right? Like he always wanted to do it. He always wanted to be a sports analyst, and he never had a shot to do it. And then he was given a chance, and he's done a great job. And I feel like that's a good story for like anybody that wants to do it. I mean, like me and Jackson. I mean, we're doing this kind of stuff, and we enjoy doing it. But like it shows someone like Josh Pate that anybody can have a shot, possibly to do what they would like to do in life. That's why I like Josh Pate overall. I mean, I think it's a really
and it's way better than like the Fine Ball show. Like even though like
what about Joy Taylor? It's better than Joy Taylor.
Oh, hey, well, we're talking about Joy Taylor now. I think she's kind of been in the news lately. I don't know if you guys.
Sorry, Dr. Buckeye.
I didn't know if you've heard. By the way, nobody rocks a Schmedium T-shirt better than Josh Pate, or that dude just must be jacked. By the way, Can I just say that?
Those are tight, man. Those are tight.
Nobody rocks a Schmedium like Josh Pate.
Oh yeah, like it's like I'll call on the Fine Ball show. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I was called on there today, and those are some crazy people calling.
Wow.
I was like,
man, we're on a roast, man.
I was like, oh my God. Like, cause it was like, I was hearing that it was like, you're so stupid, Paul. You're so stupid, Paul. It's like that Jim, I had it with him. We used to be best friends 20 months ago, but oh my God.
Talk like that is why the North thinks us down here are insane. We don't all talk like this.
Okay.
It's like, apparently I wasn't like a psycho person because I guess I got cut off like to other callers. I'm like, okay, screw you then.
I used to listen to his show. Whatever happened to Phyllis? Does she ever call in anymore? She was like
went to go work for the Lord.
Oh, really? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I miss Phyllis. She was an entertaining caller, by the way. But well, by the way, passion though. I mean, we understand that our Southern brethren is very passionate about college football. I agree with you, Jeffrey. But you know what? A certain announcer called us lunatic fringe. So, I don't know, what we're supposed to be considered nowadays, now that Herbie is out there calling us lunatic fringe. By the way, a little bit disappointed that Herbie had to cry after the title game. He's becoming a little bit too much Dick Vermeil for me, who cried at the retirement of a tackle dummy. It was once teased that Dick Vermeil was a well-known crier, but Herbie's kind of seems to be going the same route, by the way.
People used to love Kirk Herbstreit. I always man, Herbie's toward the top. And again, I really try not to trash people. I really try not to trash announcers. I'm not gonna do it now. I mean, when it comes to certain individuals like Troy Taylor, I don't care. But when it comes to Kirk Herbstreit, though, he's not. He's just not doing it, man. Like, a lot of people are very frustrated at him. I mean, he's even losing the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes are it's just frustrating because I like Kirk Herbstreit. I don't know what to say. I think, like a lot of people say, I think it's the network. I think it's the network.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's like they don't ever say a lot of their own thoughts at ESPN.
That's true.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, I think they've got some good people there. I told you, I just shout out. I think Greg does a good job. I think McElroy's, well, by the way, far better announcer than he was a quarterback. Probably, there's another proof of it. But I think McElroy's solid at his job, and I think they have some good people, at their network. I'm trying to think of who else I like over there. Maybe it is Slim Pickens after that, but
it's just frustrating. I don't like it when I feel like somebody is saying something because they're being told to say it. That's when I don't like it. I like it when I feel like everything that's coming out of their mouth is what they believe. You know what I'm saying? And when I don't feel that way about somebody, that's when I lose it with them. Where I'm just not. I'm not feeling what they're saying, that they're not a top tier commentator. And we all have moments where we just say really dumb stuff. Like me and Jackson have had a lot of moments where I've said something that was like, yeah, that didn't age well. I don't like that phrase, but it didn't age well. But it's not even about stuff like that. Stuff as well. It's just when you listen to them, though, sometimes you really tell. It's like, I don't think they believe what they're saying. They're being told to say, I don't like that. I can't stand it.
Right. Oh, yeah. By the way, to Mark Rogers' point, Sharon Moore, not only a crier, but also a bad coach, too. So he's got both things working against him. So
Michigan fans, they're excited about next season. They think that Bryce Underwood will be able to overcome everything.
Yeah, hey, Larry Ellison's wife spent a lot of money to get them a quarterback, and I mean, we'll see. I mean,
the sport is so clean and fair, man, right?
It's interesting. I was having this discussion on a Buckeye Talk where basically people are now saying NFL Light and NFL Junior nowadays, by the way, which is, the road we're obviously going down, which, hey, listen, I mean, and people criticize Ohio State for what they did with the NIL. By the way, it's been out there, and this is well documented. There are other teams that spent more money than we did, by the way. Mm-hmm. And didn't get the same bang for their buck. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was documented. I think Texas had a higher NIL payroll than we did.
I'm sure that Texas did. I mean, I'm sure they did. I mean, they got a lot of money. It's how you spend it, though, and that's what you're saying, and I agree. Like, Indiana spent a whole lot less than a lot of teams that went 7-5, for example, or 6-6. I mean, I can be the same thing. I mean, Indiana, they spent more than they ever did. I think it was like $6 million or something like that over the whole team. But that was a lot of transfers, though. But that was better than what a lot of teams in like Auburn. Auburn spent way more than Indiana, and Auburn's trash. So you know how it is. I mean, it's how you spend it. I agree.
Yeah, if you get like a right guy, obviously you get a Caleb Downs, you get a Quinshon Junkins, you get somebody like that, then you're investing your money wisely. It's just, but. I think that I do think that eventually they're going to have to make some changes. I don't think this thing is, Saban's talked about it, that it's, sustainable long term, because I just don't think it can be a free for all, which is basically is.
You're just blowing so much money, though. That's the problem. It's just so much money that every year that you're having to spend just on a team. Like, you're not even on infrastructure, not on anything else. It's just literally when it comes to getting players into your program. You're having to spend all this money, and I think donors are going to get tired of it, especially at schools where they're constantly underperforming. They're going to get mad. It's like we've spent all this money and we're going 5-7 every year and 7-5, 6-6. That, I mean, like at Ohio State and in programs where you're winning 9, 10, 11, 12 games every year, it's not going to be as frustrating. But at other schools that you're underperforming than it is, I don't think it's sustainable either. This comment right here from Mark, though, the best play-by-play guys and color analysts are not the high-profile guys. In my opinion, I feel like he absolutely, Mark is correct. In my opinion, though, guys that do very well, though, sometimes when they end up becoming high-profile guys because their commentating is so good, that's when they go downhill. It's almost like there's more pressure to do good. Like when you're not as well known, you just do a good job because you're good at it. And then when you get really famous, then you go downhill because like everybody's like, wow, this dude's awesome. And then you just start sucking. I don't know if that's true.
Well, like for example, Joe Tessitore, because he became really well known with those calls they made 2011.
Yeah, that Georgia Tech game was one of the worst games I've ever listened to.
I never heard anything about the history of the clean old fashioned hate rivalry. I never heard about how many times it's been played on a Thursday or Friday. Nothing, zero zilch from that guy.
See, there's a crew that I used to like when I first, back in like the 90s when I was watching, they were on ESPN. I thought they were a much better crew than they are now. And that's Nestler and Danielson. I actually used to think Nestler and Danielson were good at one time.
I was a kid, like in the early 2010s, late 2000s, perfect. I thought it was great. Yeah.
Well, you know what, though? A lot of people thought Danielson was just a closet Alabama fan, though, for a long period of time.
That's probably why I liked him, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I mean, he used to be a Big Ten guy. When I first started listening to him back in the 90s, they did the noon game on ESPN, which was a Big Ten game back in the early to mid 90s. So, and I thought they were solid at the time, and then Danielson's gone. Now, I still kind of like Nestler, but Danielson I think has become real weak over the years.
Maybe honestly, they should just tell Danielson to retire and just get Todd Blackledge to come back.
He's solid. I still like Blackledge.
Because when they were calling games together from 2009 to 2015, they were a great duo together.
They were good.
Solid. It felt like you were watching Saturday night.
Yeah. Long to the days of Ron Franklin and Mike Gottfried on those Sunday night college games on ESPN, by the way.
Oh yeah. I remember Ron Franklin called a lot of games with Ed Cunningham from 2007 to 2010. I remember a few of those. Ron Franklin was pretty good.
Right.
I just wish he didn't get himself in trouble making some comments, but it is what it is.
Yeah, Mark says Gus Johnson sucks. When I was younger, I liked Gus Johnson because I just thought he was so hilarious. Like you remember that one comment that he did? It was one of those Ohio State games like 7-8 years ago where he was talking. The dude's like running so fast, he's running away from the cops or something like that. I don't know.
He said that.
It was something so funny. I don't remember exactly how he said it, but it was. It was so hilarious. He was great when I was younger. I know he was never like a great commentator, but he was funny. Now I don't find him funny anymore. And it's like, especially, I mean, when him and Klatt do all the Ohio State games, it gets old. It's like they do every Ohio State game. And it's like, it seems like whenever they do any other team, they're not even nowhere near as engaged and like they even know what they're even talking about, especially Joel Klatt's good. But they do Ohio State way too much. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault.
They're just Big Ten though, Jeffrey, because last year they did a ton of Team Up North games though. They did do a ton of Team Up North games like last year. Actually, the last 2 years they've done a ton of them. I will say this. You know what I think with Gus, it's kind of gotten annoying is like the way Berman used to be with the nicknames. People used to like the Berman nicknames for like 100 years, and then people thought it got a little bit whatever after a while. I think the same thing happened with Gus. People got tired of the corny nicknames, I think, to a certain extent.
I really like the nicknames of Chris Berman, and I still kind of have a soft spot for it, but the nickname that kind of makes me cringe is his CD Lamb nickname. He calls him ABCDEFG Lamb, which like Yeah, and I know like
back in
both of them,
2011, Gus
Yeah.
Johnson's
Like-
getting away
like for
from the
me-
cops call. It's classic.
Wow.
You got to watch it if you haven't. It's funny.
oh yeah.
I do
Sorry,
not
Jack, go
remember
ahead.
that one.
Yeah,
Like,
I was like 7 years old, and I'm telling you, I laughed so hard. It was so
Jeez.
hilarious. And that's when I was like, Gus Johnson's the best. And he would do so much hilarious junk back in like the early 2010s. Not anymore. I don't find him amusing anymore. But he was so funny back in the day. And it was controversial stuff. Like, he probably shouldn't have said that, but it was
Right.
funny. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of some shtick getting kind of just older with, like him. And now I will say I've defended Klatt. I have defended Klatt. A lot of Ohio State fans have come at Klatt. I think Klatt just knows the game pretty well and does a good job of explaining the game and delivering play-by-play. I just think he's a solid guy that knows the game well and does a good job of breaking it down. I even listen to his podcast from time to time and enjoy that as well. But I don't know why he's taking some grief from our fans, but I actually think Klatt's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think Klatt's bad at all. I mean, he does a good job. I don't think. I mean, him and Gus, it just depends. And when Gus is on and he makes like good jokes and lines, and like when he gets really excited and he starts like losing his voice,
Right.
then he works with Klatt. But when it's just kind of bland. Like, for example, like when Ohio State's blowing out Purdue or Michigan's blowing out a team, it gets rough. Like,
Yeah.
it is bad. And again, that's a lot of it's the network for airing a game. It's trash because it's Ohio State or Michigan, but they don't know really how to carry a game when it's not good.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. Is Reese Davis a lifelong Alabama fan? I thought I'd heard that Reese
He went
Davis.
to school at Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Answers the question.
I thought I'd heard him talking about like a game from his youth and being like an Alabama fan, but it never comes across. I would not have known that Reese Davis, went to Alabama or was an Alabama fan until he like brought it up one time. But
I have to ask Mark since he's here. Appreciate you for stopping by, Mark, in the chat. But who is your least favorite current college football commentator? Who is your least favorite? I want to know what Mark's least favorite is. Probably gonna be Gus Johnson, but
because
I do want to see if there's anybody worse than that.
I kind of agree with Mark on somebody that he I don't necessarily care for him, and I used to like this guy doing other sports. Is McDonough.
Yeah, I don't know. Both. You can answer both, Mark. Commentator and play-by-play. I guess they're two different. I agree. Yeah, McDonough has gone down. I think he was better when I was younger, too. I don't know what it is. I mean, when you get older, when you're young and you just hear some people and you just – because, I mean, again, like you're older, Dr. Buck. I like Mark and everybody else in the chat. Most of you guys are. But, like, for me, like when I was younger, I thought – like a few certain people were like really good, and then when I get older, I either like find out they aren't that good, or like everybody hates them, and then you realize they weren't great to begin with. But I just feel like when you're young, that you just have a different perspective on stuff.
Sure.
I think what would be better for Sean McDonough is if he got out of ESPN right now, right this minute.
I know Mark likes Sean McDonough. I mean, I don't think he's awful. I just think he's gotten worse. There's a lot of people that I feel like have gotten worse. He's gotten worse. Kirk Herbstreit's gotten a lot worse. There's a lot of people that have just gotten worse. It's nothing against them personally. I don't dislike any of them personally because I don't know them. Like when I'm saying what I'm saying, I'm not trashing him personally. Like Kirk Herbstreit's probably the greatest dude ever, just talking to him, whatever. But it's just as commentating, I feel like they've gone down. That's my opinion.
Yeah, because I mean, he made great calls like in the late '90s with Alabama, Florida, the rebirth in the swamp in 1999, where Alabama was coming back, winning in overtime, upsetting Florida. 1998, Tennessee, Florida, 93 World Series Game 6, and 2009 Virginia Tech, Nebraska. And Cincinnati Pitt from that season. BYU, Nebraska 2050. That is one of my favorite calls of all time. I feel like if Sean McDonough became the head man at NBC, that would be a win for him and a win for NBC. You know what it would be like?
Interesting thought.
It would be like when Al Michaels went to NBC in 2006.
Yeah, he helped out that network big time. Well, him and Madden basically transferred over. They just once ABC lost the NFL, they just were the package deal and ended up going over there. And we're really good together there for years. Although I think Al Michaels is still. Some people think Al Michaels has lost his fastball. I think Al Michaels is really good. Well, by the way, speaking of a guy that lost his,
he'd be cranky too if he had to call Jets Patriots.
Yeah, he's been relegated to some crap games. You're right.
Dude, Dr.
Yes.
Buck, now were you
That's
saying?
just so wrong. Like he's sitting there going like, I go from Miracle on Ice to this.
Right. Well, I'll tell you a guy that went downhill. The GOAT went downhill towards the end of his career, which is Wonelli. Keith Jackson. He did. Yeah, I mean, I also think he was saddled with Dan Fouts, who I still think was awful. I thought Fouts was weak. You know what I mean? And by the way, they called two of the greatest national title games of all time. Our game against Miami, and then the last game, which was arguably near everybody's top of the list, which is Texas USC.
Yeah.
So
because I was like a toddler when Keith Jackson retired, but like I've seen a lot of the games that he called online, like those 2000s, middle and early 2000s. Yeah, I mean, he was old. It's like saying Dick Vitale is bad. And it's like, because he's old. But you go back and when I listen to 70s Keith Jackson, it's like, oh my God, this dude is amazing. So he's fantastic. But when you get old, you're not going to be as good at your job. There's no way when you get that old. That's why I like saying Al Michaels. It's probably age. He's old.
Right.
I agree with Mark here, and I'm not going to get too far into this topic because a lot of people hate it. I know probably not here, but outwardly. Yep. But Mark says Gus Johnson's horrible, the worst. There are a couple women, I'd have to look up their names, that are complete amateurs. They know nothing and aren't skilled at their job. I mean, let's be real. I mean, again, most people that, when you're doing the opposite gender in a sport, you're not going to be good at it. That'd be like me commentating a women's basketball game. I'm not going to be that good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that most of them are very good. I mean, they're better as sideline reporters, honestly, in my opinion.
Well, let me just say it. I'm going to say the not so quiet part out loud. I think most of them are there for eye candy.
It is.
I think that, let's just be real. Nobody wants to say it.
That's why I'm mad at the Joy Taylor situation. It's annoying.
That's what I was saying.
You have to earn your job. I'm sorry, but you have to earn your job.
I think Molly McGrath's very attractive, by the way. I mean, she's a pretty woman. What do you want me to say? I'm a guy. I'm a heterosexual male. I find a woman attractive. It's my bad.
I mean, none of us would be here otherwise. I mean,
right.
What was her name? I'm forgetting her name. Like,
Carrie Champion?
No, before her.
Oh, the woman that
Mark says I'm not talking about eye candy. I'm talking about the ugly ones in the booth that you don't see.
Dang. Is that Mark Rogers? Mark Rogers Unfiltered is the best. He dropped an F-bomb a couple of days ago, and now he's...
When Mark had that conversation with Tim months ago, and Tim was debating that and Mark's like, I'm effing done. I'm done. And Mark, what are you doing?
Say goodnight, Tim. I am not going to discuss this. Say goodnight, Tim. Say goodnight, Tim. USC had the ball, and they were blowing him off the bat. Say goodnight, Tim.
Well,
I told him like 10 times, and he was like, "I'm done." And he said he was like, "Oh my
God." Let Mark get Chris Foote on the phone for a half an hour and see how that works out. By the way, that's not pretty. No.
How is the helmet that fell off doing? That's my question for Monday afternoon. Is it okay? That's what I need to know. I need confirmation that's okay.
By the way, any truth to the fact that Chris Foote will be writing the foreword to Mark's 1980s national title review book?
Oh God.
When Mark does his next book on the 80s for national titles, maybe Chris Foote will write that chapter or write the foreword for the book. Just a thought. I want to get that out there for Mark.
I totally see that. Doc P says Beth Mowens. That's one that he's talking about, commentator. Yeah. And then Mark says, by the way, I'm with David on the silent eye candy. I'm good with that. Yep. I mean, the thing is, though, is that I'm sorry, but yet again, 90% of them get their jobs because of that. Is there anything wrong with it? No, I guess not. As long as you don't do what Joy Taylor did, I'm fine. Just don't do that. Do not do that, and you're fine. But commentating, it's not that good.
Right. Hey, Faith Hill got old. She got replaced by Carrie Underwood. That was like a thing. You know what I mean? It runs in.
Underwood will get replaced one day. Taylor Swift is gonna get replaced one day. It will
That's
happen.
true.
She's
Yes.
gonna be off the face of the earth.
Mark for the win! For the win! Oh my gosh!
That's Joy Taylor isn't even looking anymore. I'm sorry. This is
Wow.
so funny. I'm sorry. Oh my
Jeez.
gosh. We're gonna get canceled, man. We're done.
No, we're fine. We're
Boy,
fine.
Emmanuel Acho. Poor, Emmanuel. How much did Emmanuel Acho help out her career?
We'd have gotten canceled 6 years ago, and people are just like, "Nah, we don't care. I just want to get. Paid."
I'm kidding around it. I don't care, man. I mean, if you're getting threats of getting canceled, you're doing something right. You know what I'm saying? You're doing something right. That's just my opinion.
Oh, one announcer though, with to the point though that I missed, that is an icon from my youth until a very long period of time. Jeffrey, you probably even remember him, is Musburger.
Mm-hmm.
I like Musburger. To me, is symbolic of like all sports. By the way, he was like, when I was a kid, he covered everything, and I thought he was always great at college football for like years. And even worked well with Herbie there, all the way till the end, and was great. Yeah. By the way, he did like a certain Alabama quarterback's, future wife. By the way, which a friend of mine still thinks he was part of cancel culture, and that he liked. What was McCarron's future wife?
Catherine Webb, I think.
Catherine Webb, yes.
I think if it was like this year or last year, I don't even think people would care because again, where it's like, it was like a current trend to get upset in 2012, 2013. Now it's just like, it doesn't have that same feel.
I'm glad. I mean, people need to get over the fact that you don't like what somebody says. It's not the end of the world, okay? Like, you don't like what somebody says, just ignore them. Like, say a remark if you wish, and then it's over. It's done.
Right.
Don't try to get them canceled off the internet. I mean, there's some stuff you shouldn't say. Obviously, there's some things you shouldn't cross, like death threats. You don't do that. But like, you calling somebody a moron, that's fine. If you think they're a moron, you think they're a moron. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. I love this though, Mark. I've got no tolerance for Holly Rowe.
Jeez, poor Holly.
Mark is on fire right now.
Yeah, I actually, some of the sideline reporters do, an okay job, but it's just like, to be fair, there's a lot of male sideline reporters I don't like, just to keep it on balance and to keep it even.
There's a lot of, we're trashing male commentators.
Yeah.
Tons of terrible ones. They're horrible.
The biting commentary, I think that was actually Marv Albert. I heard he was taking a bite.
How do you guys feel? Everybody doesn't like Collinsworth. Everybody trashes Chris Collinsworth, but everybody trashes his son too, Jack Collinsworth. They trash them both.
Well, who's worse, Collinsworth or Romo? Because Romo's been catching a lot of flack lately. A lot of people
Romo better. I
don't
know
if the greatest thing ever.
Because I haven't really heard a lot of his games recently. But when I was a little younger, 14, 15, he first started doing it, I thought he was fantastic. So I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people thought it got old real quick. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jackson.
I was going to say, I got to tell you, Mark, you know how you said your brain was about to freaking explode Monday afternoon? You thought it was going to explode Monday afternoon, but if you had called in on like the Paul Feinbaum show today, like you'd have been like, oh, I'm going to have an aneurysm from these callers. Like, these people are nuts. Because it was like, when I called in on that show today, when I was waiting, I was like, geez, these people are nuts.
By the way, I see Darrell in the chat. What is, Darrell might be the last one hanging on, because Feinbaum has already conceded that the Big Ten is the best conference. By the way,
no.
Darrell, you might be the last one left on the ship here, my friend, because Feinbaum, the mouth of the South, has already conceded on ESPN that the Big Ten is the best conference.
I can't wait any longer. We got to.
So, Darrell,
What's up, man?
Your guy is already conceded, so you might want to. You're the last man left on the ship.
Wait a minute. I thought Paul Feinbaum was an idiot who didn't know what he's talking about. Now we got to take Paul Feinbaum's word at face value.
Hey, Darrell's got a point. Darrell does have a point.
First of all, you'll find, well, aside from Darrell, it's like 1A, 1B. You'll never find a bigger fan of the SEC conference than Paul Feinbaum, by the way. And if he's turning on you, Darrell, to me, that says something.
Listen,
I'm just saying.
He doesn't know. Listen, he hasn't done a deep dive into those Minnesota UNC games. Okay, does he think he even knows the results of that game? If I said Minnesota played UNC, do you think he know what year I'd be talking about?
Well, he has been covering the conference for like 40 some years now. And Feinbaum goes way back with the SEC. So it's not like, I mean, he's seen this conference's growth he even wrote a book stating that, what was the book that Feinbaum did? Our conference is better than yours or something like that.
That's pretty true. Hey, listen, it's okay listen. It's like having a race. And instead of being down 4 laps on the race, you were within 10 seconds of passing us. I mean, it's great improvement you all made. He's still behind us, though, at the end of the day. And let's be honest, the only reason it's even a conversation is because a certain team in Ohio decided, well, Michigan can't own the last national championship. We do. And they put their foot down and invested all their resources and won 4 games.
Hey, they just laid the rules out to us and said this is the way the game is played, and we said okay if this is the way the game is played. Now we didn't give the money away in McDonald's bags like a certain program in the SEC. We don't,
You also didn't cheat like some other program.
That's true. That's true. We didn't have a Connor Stallions unlike some other program.
Have you seen Moose recently, David Greenshields? Have you seen him?
I can't say I have and can't say I miss him.
Talking about this national championship being a Mickey Mouse national championship and putting in asterisks next to it. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that new national title trophy that we got is going to look awfully good inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Facility. And I think that Moose and his 5-loss team should, just enjoy their 5-loss season. And I hope they enjoyed watching the college football playoffs after their 5 losses this year. And I hope he gets real familiar with that because they're probably going to lose another 4 or 5 games next year. So,
well, he should be used to losing playoff games since he was a Lions fan. I mean,
that's true.
It's not uncharted waters for him.
Hey, the Lions choked, man. They choked.
And they're losing coaches now.
Oh
yeah.
I got Mark. Remind me to make sure to send you the audio version of my waiting session because I'm going to tell you right now, those are some crazy people calling in.
Wait, did you actually call the Paul Feinbaum show?
Today I did, but I got cut off because of other callers, I guess.
Man, how'd you get cut off? Like Fall Pine Bomb, that would be a great name reversal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Listen, some of those people are characters on there, man. I mean, some of those people are legends in their own right. Not exactly. I wouldn't call them the most intelligent people on the planet. They're not going to cure cancer.
They weren't. It was like they need some. They need people from the Voice College Football coming on in. Like they need all of us calling in. Like they need Mark.
We need to bring some better commentary over there. That's what you're trying to say.
Oh, exactly. Because I mean, like all I heard was Jim this and Jim that, or it was like Derek. He was like running his mouth about LSU today, which he was saying LSU's gonna beat Clemson by 14. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm sure you know a lot about Tom Allen becoming the new DC for Clemson.
I keep on saying this. How bad does Brian Kelly and LSU have to be when you look at the NFL this year and the 2 best rookie receivers in the NFL are Thomas and Neighbors, and the best rookie quarterback is Jaden Daniels, and he loses 3.
Jaden Daniels is unbelievable.
3 games with that last year.
Him last year. Think about it.
Yeah.
That's why he deserved the Heisman.
Yeah. And they lost 3 games with that. No, I get it. Their defense wasn't very good last year. They were giving up a lot of points. It was. But still, I mean, now is Kelly's still more hot seat than DeBoer next year, right? Are we saying that Kelly is more?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Anybody with common sense would say that.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Got 1 year in the books, and it was disappointing. But Brian Kelly's been underperforming for years now.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I'm hoping that Derek guy, that's like the LSU guy on the Feinbaum show, calls in again because I'm gonna tell you right now,
Anybody that has LSU ranked at number 8 is insane. I'm sorry. I
Right.
don't even care who did it.
I think
They
they
not
I
need to be
think
ranked
they-
number 8 to start the year.
Yeah,
Come on.
LSU at 8. I'm like,
Yeah.
Worse than Bama at
what
3.
did you eat? What did you eat? What did you drink? What are you
Nussmeier next year.
drinking?
He's going to be slinging it. Nussmeier, man. He's the
Nussmeier kept going 19 for 51 for
Yeah.
300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks. I mean, what kind of stat line is that?
right.
Well, everybody's hyped because they beat a bad Baylor team.
Yeah, I mean, I think Notre Dame fans right now, would you say, got the last laugh? I mean, because they have to feel, and I'm not just saying that because they made a nice little comeback and kind of made it, competitive on Monday, but still, though, you have to say with Freeman going forward, they're feeling a lot more confident than, and then Kelly obviously, leaves them because he feels he can't win there. I do think
Mark's the voice of college football, 21.
Yeah,
better.
21
Good
seems
job.
about right.
Good job.
And David, I got to give Notre Dame tons of props. They did the smart thing in this new era. They made it to where they can't lose unless they have a cataclysmic collapse more than like 2 games every season. Listen, round of applause for them. Okay, David, I got to ask you a legitimate question. Why are you playing Texas next year? Why? That's a loss you could take. And if you have 3 losses, you're just eliminated. Why are you playing Texas? Why not FIU?
I hear you.
FIU?
Yeah, get a built-in win early, especially because it's the first game. It's interesting. I actually just saw Coward, or actually Clad. I was talking about Clad earlier. His early top 10. He had Texas 2, us 3, and then guess who he had at number 1?
Oh, I saw it was Penn State.
Yeah, your favorite quarterback there, Darrell.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I think Texas won. Listen, I hate to say it, but who's more known commodity right now than Texas and Penn State?
I mean, I can see that. I actually don't have a problem with them being ranked that high. I mean, Penn State is kind of trying to do, you know what I mean, by bringing back some people or bringing back, the running backs and Aller, and then the one good defensive end, Dennis Sutton's a good player, is coming back for them too. So they got some key guys coming back, but it is still James Franklin as their coach, and I still don't know if they've got anything at wide receiver next year.
I don't know about their quarterback either. He finds a way to lose in the big games. I mean, that interception.
It was bad. He had a bad game. That
just summarizes his career for me. Hey, he finds a way to lose. Some players are like that. And then you got on the opposite end, the GOAT, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, wow. How do we know that Darrell was not going to bring up Patrick Mahomes in this segment, by the way?
I have to bring him up. I have to bring up the greatest. By the way, tough week for Michigan. Or tough 2 months. They've lost their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. They saw their rivals play a national championship game. Saw their biggest rival win it all. Saw the Detroit Lions completely collapse. And they're going to see Tom Brady be passed up all in 2 months.
Wow.
I will say, when I was waiting for my turn, so to speak, I remember at the first part of the show, Paul was talking with Andy Staples at On 3. He had him on. They talked a little bit about the way too early top 25. And Andy, I think, got into depth as to why he and Ari Weiserman put Alabama at 14 in their way too early top 25 at On 3. It's like we didn't really know where to put him, to be honest. Like I think I remember that's what he said, but when they pull up the Andy Staples interview on the Feinbaum show on Apple Podcast or Spotify, you can find that part where he talks about it. But he did say where Ari Weiserman and Brad Crawford, very good friend of the Voice of College Football Network, by the way, he said, they're going at it, and he's like, well, Paul, you should host it, or we'll host it on 3. We'll have we'll see if we can set like a debate anywhere. It's like, I got an idea.
Well,
I'm just so happy.
The Voice of College Football could host a debate.
Jackson, I'm just so happy you're giving smaller programs like Florida State a chance to play against the big boys now.
Smaller programs. Wow. Poor Mike Norvell, who's coaching on borrowed time, right? This year, maybe?
Poor Norvell.
Yeah, no. Hopefully he gets fired because they're a complete clown show in 2023 ending, and their fans acting like they were all that when, let's be honest, they are not even close.
Do they move out Norvell and do they do they go after the obvious guy as their next head coach? Move heaven and earth to get the most obvious guy as their next head coach, which we all know who that would be if Norvell is gone, right?
Deion Sanders?
Yeah, wouldn't that be the obvious choice?
As long as
I'm worried my boy
Signetti
Marcus
is not
Phipps
on
might take it.
anybody's list, I don't care.
What's that, Jeffrey?
As long as Kurt Signetti is not on anybody's list, then I don't care.
Oh, there you go.
Just stay
He's not
away
going
from him.
anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Indiana's his last stop. No
$8
worries.
million a year, it should be enough, right? Come on.
Yep.
Should be enough.
But there we go. And stay tuned for the all-time debate call-in show a few weeks from now from the Voice College Football.
That's going to be a bloodbath.
Oh,
Nice.
yes, Ohio State, Michigan, all-time debate.
Yes.
That's going to be huge right there.
Well, I hope he brings on Matt Foley, the motivational speaker, Steve Dace, because I would love to debate him, by the way. The podcaster who he has on from time to time that represents
Do you follow his Twitter account, Michigan Podcast?
I've actually listened to his podcast from time to time. I don't necessarily follow his Twitter as much.
Okay, well, he was coping about the Lions loss, and that was pretty funny. He was like, oh, well, the Lions, they went 15-2, were the 1 seed, but they had tons of injuries, and we all, we all kind of expected them not to make it that far. That's why they were 9.5-point favorites, David. When you're 9.5-point favorites, you just kind of expect to lose, right? Is that how it works?
Their defense was terrible. Their defense.
Well, do you think the Rams might have got a little chuckle out of that loss and say, I always said that that's a trade that worked out well for both teams, but do you think that they got a little chuckle and says, oh, maybe that's why we got rid of Jared Goff, because maybe there's like a ceiling as far as where he can take us as a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, Jared Goff just isn't that guy. He's just another guy. That's who he is. He's like Kirk Cousins, Lamar Jackson, Andy Dalton. He's just the guy who does great in the regular season, fails in the playoffs.
Lamar Jackson in the same sentence as Andy Dalton. And
yeah, I'd pump the
wait a minute.
How do you do against Buffalo? How do you do against Buffalo?
Yeah,
he's
infinitely more talented than those guys.
I will say this for Lamar, and I know this is probably a low bar. I'd actually give him at least a B- for that performance. I thought he played really well in the second half, and he wasn't the problem. Mark Andrews fumbled the ball and did drop a pass to Real. So let's be fair.
Andrews.
But we got to be fair about that fumble and intercept. I mean, that interception was pretty bad as well. That was a complete duck.
Well, I thought the fumble was worse than the interception personally, but
Andrews.
All I know is that Lamar Jackson is an infinitely more exciting, talented, and better player than Kirk Cousins and Andy Dalton. I mean, I'm sorry. Lamar is on another league. Is he one of the best quarterbacks of all time? It depends on what your definition of quarterback is. If you're talking about someone like Tom Brady, then no. But when you're talking about him on the athletic group, he's among the best. He is so fun to watch. It's unbelievable. Yeah, he actually can throw the ball. He can. He actually can throw the ball.
See, I actually think Daniels is the better version of Lamar because I
agree with you. If Jaden Daniels continues to be the way he is and gets better, I think that he is an improved Lamar. Literally, I agree because they're very similar players. But Lamar as is great. He is a great quarterback. It's just the fact that every now and then he makes a big mistake in a big game that makes people think that he's trash. But he is really good, though. I mean, 99% of people wish they could be as athletic as Lamar. Okay? I mean, you can't teach that. And I know that a quarterback is about throwing the ball, but again, Lamar's not even bad at that.
Right. By the way, Darrell, you do know that everybody outside of Kansas City will be rooting against the Swifties this weekend. You do know that.
They hate us because they hate us.
It's like, no.
Yes.
Listen, we got, as I told, I believe it was Austin yesterday, I said we got the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We got the greatest head coach of all time in Andy Reid. Got the greatest quarterback of all time in Patrick Mahomes. We got the greatest tight end of all time in Travis Kelce. And we got the greatest boyfriend of all time in Travis Kelce. Because how many rings did you put on how many rings do you think he's going to put on his girlfriend's finger?
He's the best boyfriend of all time?
Yeah,
there
he's
could
gonna
be a
pay.
better
Have you been
boyfriend.
watching their personal life, Darrell?
Hey,
Like, do you
hey,
have it
listen,
on
Over, over or
Most
under?
men,
Darrell
when
has
they-
3 Taylor Swift CDs somewhere. Over or under?
How many do you think I own, David?
I'm gonna say I'm hoping 0, Jeffrey.
It's 0. You know I'm a
hoping
classic rock
0.
guy, man. I'm a classic rock guy.
Yes, I'm
Listen,
hoping
guys,
no
0.
Taylor.
I know the haters are just gonna hate. So we're
Yes.
just gonna shake
I
it off. Okay.
I just hope the Bills bring a little less conversation on Sunday and bring out that flaming star that is Josh Allen.
And bring your own refs, Buffalo. Bring your own refs, by the way,
Dude,
because
the
if
how
you
many-
the
how many
rest are
times has,
trash.
Josh Allen
We
beaten
know the
Patrick
rest are
Mahomes?
trash. Come on.
I mean-
Mark, I was watching a little bit of that Elvis movie on INSP the other night. It was the Flaming Star. That's pretty
Look at
cool
Troy
movie.
V. Intentionally spells the first. I think so. Intentionally spells the first name wrong. Taylor Swift guy. I mean, the thing is, it gets old, man. It gets old. It's like, I mean, I can understand the Swiftie fans are excited. Ooh, we like football now, but it's just annoying. It's like no one cares. That true football fans does not care, and the only reason that Chiefs fans care is because they're winning.
In real life, every time she's on screen, I just ecstatically burst out laughing, saying, "Look, guys, there's Taylor Swift. There's Taylor Swift," just to be that annoying
It's
guy.
so
in the room.
ridiculous. You know, it's ridiculous.
Do you believe
I know,
that
that's why I pointed out.
Well, isn't there some stats to back up that she has drawn people to the game? Like she's drawn like fans to the game.
Biggest pop star in the world. I mean,
Well-
right now. I mean, it's fair that like you're gonna have people that like her that are gonna be enthralled by it. It's like, wow, I could turn on this football game and see my favorite pop idol figure ever in the world for like a minute of the game. I mean, you know, like I get that. It's just annoying though, because for people like us that like football for what it is, it's like we don't really want to see this all the time. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll write your
Maybe
name.
somebody should do
I'll
this.
write your name.
Oh man, Caitlin. Yeah, that's right. It was like what, like because it was like I thought Brittany Mahomes was the best girlfriend of Taylor Swift. I guess Caitlin Clark's taking that. I want to see what Corey Brada has to say about it.
I
I
think
thought it was,
for me, I
Ice
think when
Spice.
you have like people that were Chiefs fans before Swift,
Right.
it's like that's fine. Like you're already a Chiefs fan, or like especially
Right.
before Mahomes, like really good. But then the people that just like him now because Mahomes and they're winning, and
Right.
then now with Swift, it's just like it's fake. You know what I'm saying? It's just fake. Like where are you gonna be when all this is gone? When the Chiefs
They're gonna
are
be with the
trash
other
10
winner.
years from now, where are you gonna be? The Swifties are gone. The boyfriends are gone. All of Andy Reid's all gone. Mahomes is gone. It's all over. No
the
one's
for-
going to care anymore
Yeah,
about the Chiefs outside of the
exactly.
fans that were originally of the team. They're all going to be gone. It's
Well,
not
Jeffrey, we got 15 years before that happens. Okay, so we got. a long-
Jeez.
Kelsey's not
Yeah.
even going to be in the league in
Yeah.
5 years. What are you talking about?
Hold on, is this doubt? Is this doubt on Patrick Mahomes? I'm hearing.
Kelsey's going to be in the league at 50?
No, not Kelsey. Patrick Mahomes. He'll be in the league for
Yeah, but
15 more.
Kelsey's why people care. The boyfriend.
No,
I mean,
he'll-
Kelsey and
don't you
Swift.
think he'll be attending the games? Maybe we can get him an ownership, piece of the ownership. But guys,
What
I
if
see
the
Sean Gardner
relationship
in the.
breaks apart? What if that happens?
I get it, Jackson. I see Sean Garner in the void back there. He's been waiting for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, we're
I
gonna
would love
bring
his
him
take
on.
on.
I will be happy to bow out for my buddy Sean, who's a lifelong Ohio State fan. Great show tonight, guys, and I will be back for the debate show. By the way, you didn't even plug. Did you plug the book tonight, Jackson? I didn't hear you
Oh,
plug
he
the
did
did.
at the beginning.
Oh,
He did at
Well,
the
I mean, it's 3 weeks to Valentine's Day, so I mean, we gotta do it
gotta
right.
get the plug in.
Chocolates, Flowers, Mark's book.
Yep.
Does
there
it get
you
any
go.
better than that, ladies?
No Taylor Swift. Classic
Yes.
rock.
Yeah.
No. Haters are going to hate. Have a good night, guys.
Have a good one, David.
Night, Dr. Buckeye. And we have Sean Garner on with us, a very good friend of the Voice College Football Network. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
I am doing just fantastic. How is everyone doing tonight?
Oh, we're
Good.
doing all right. We've been trashing Bert Kreischer on what an idiot he is for riding the coattails of Joe Rogan.
Okay, like I said, I have absolutely no idea what you're trashing Bert Kreischer for, but I would like to join if that is.
Derek, come on in. It's like trashed him for crashing CJ Stroud's interview with Pat McAfee. And let's see, called in on the Feinbaum show today. We're talking a little bit about this team called Alabama football. I think we are. Is that right, Jeffrey?
That was the original focus of the show, I believe. I see the title, Alabama Crimson Todd Collins show. I think I do with Taylor Swift. But
Wait, Alabama football. My memories coming back to me. Were they once a pretty good football team?
yeah, I think they won a few titles or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
it's been a while, I think. And,
Yeah, it's been a while. I can't remember our last title.
Oh my god, because
it has been a whole 5 years now, hasn't it?
That's crazy.
We were all stuck at home last time they won one.
Sean, you can't relate to that, so I know you can't relate.
No. I mean, we're just enjoying the rain.
Yeah. How does it feel?
Yeah,
it feels fantastic. I mean, obviously,
I'll ask you the same question I asked David Greenshield. I'm seeing not just Moose, but plenty of Michigan fans claiming this title's Mickey Mouse or has an asterisk next to it. What do you think about
a Mickey Mouse title? Like,
yes. Listen, I'm not the person
saying
it's
so original. Call it a Donald Duck title. That'd be better.
You want to catch me saying these type of comments in public because I value my dignity a little bit more than that, but some people don't apparently. So, Sean, what do you think?
Well, I think once people lose their dignity, it's just you just go off the rails. You just play into it.
Well, you know what they say. It's don't feed the trolls. I'm going to live by that right now. We are let the sourpusses gripe. Let these people go through their proper emotional grievance.
As Marshall Dillon
said, and then eventually we can talk.
As Marshall Dillon said to the gunfire they beat the crap out of in the street for shooting two boys, he said, "He who lives by the sword dies by the sword." That's a quote I go by every day. He who lives by the sword
live by.
But you don't shoot people with a sword. What is he talking about?
well, like Joe Delt. That was the gunfire's name. That was killing the two boys that Matt Dillon beat the crap out of.
Sean, do you think
we could use a Matt Dillon in college football? That'd be pretty cool.
The real what?
I was going to ask you, with this season now complete, what are your thoughts about just the title and like how, if people thought it was too long drawn out, this playoff process, and it felt like we lost some steam. I'm not sure if you saw the ratings, but we lost 3 million people from last year's championship game.
But it was of the last I saw a graph. We were, I think, it was the third most watched title game in the last 10 years. Yeah. Last year's was number one. I don't exactly know why that was. That was kind of surprising to me. I mean, Michigan's obviously a big draw, but I wouldn't expect Washington to be that significant of a draw. You know,
maybe so many people were watching it because they wanted Michigan to lose because of the scandal.
that very well could have drawn some people. Yeah, all that drama they went. During the season definitely might have played a role, but I don't know. I mean, I felt like there was a lot of buzz, a lot of intensity going into each round, and maybe I'm probably the wrong person to ask because my team was in it. Not a very objective perspective here, but I did see a few people I follow on Twitter that I don't follow that follow for college football, so they might not necessarily be like diehard. They're more of kind of a casual-ish type of fans.
Mhm.
And a couple of them had said going into that, like, this title game doesn't feel like it has anywhere near the buzz or juice that others have had. And I have to defer to them because I was sitting there consuming like Buckeye Insider content like 4 or 5 hours a day. I mean, I was heavily enmeshed into this game.
Well, as you should.
So it's like I can't really speak to how the general public looked at this game. I can just say the ratings were actually. I can say the ratings were actually pretty good for the playoffs. Like, they look through, they're on par or better than in previous years, and that's pretty good because we had a lot more.
We had more games as well, but
right. No, but I mean, like the semifinals and the finals were pretty much online with what they've been.
I get you. For me, I didn't have that gravitational pull. I think the delay for me, and also the fact I didn't believe in Notre Dame and Penn State, the winner of that game, I think that had something to do with it.
I think that had a lot to do with it too. I don't feel like a lot of people felt this was an even matchup where Notre Dame had more than a puncher's chance in this game. So that had to have drawn, because these are two of the 5 biggest brands in the sport. You would expect it to be a huge number.
Correct.
Well, and I heard like some people saying, does it matter more that Ohio State lost to Michigan, or does it matter more that they won the Natty? No, it still matters more that they lost to Michigan. What are you thinking, Sean?
Oh, I've said this before. I'll take a title over a win against a 6-5 Michigan team any day. So it's a silly question to me. I would never. I mean, I was like in depression for 2-3 days. I was like, I couldn't put a smile on my face after losing to Michigan. It really, really hurt. But
it's the same thing, Sean. Me and Jackson, I think, asked this before. I know I did, but I asked Ohio State fans before, would they rather go 1-11 and beat Michigan, or would they rather go 11-1 and lose to Michigan? And there were some Ohio State, I think they were being funny, but they literally said that they'd rather go 1-11 and beat Michigan. How could you even say that, though? That's objectively stupid. Like, I know they're your rival, and I know you hate them, but it would be better to go 11-1 and lose to Michigan than to go 1-11 and beat them. It would, because your season sucks. Like, we beat our rival, but you're 1-11. I know realistically that would never happen, but it's just the thought process. Yes, a national title win for Ohio State is bigger than beating Michigan, because losing this game is why I feel they won the whole thing. I really do. I mean, I know that we'll never know what would have happened if they beat Michigan. Would they have won? We don't know, because we don't have that to go off of. But all we have is that after that game against Michigan, Ohio State was a significantly different team. They played so much better. They were engaged way more than they were at any point in the season prior. So I don't know. I mean, you can't say that a national title win is not the better thing. It is the better thing.
Right.
yeah,
And I agree with the Troy's comment there. I saw, I think the guy on the Monty show say, there was a lot of people flipping between the national championship game and Fox or CNN.
Yeah,
or
I was
MSNBC.
actually going to say that being on Inauguration Day didn't help.
I
Definitely try not to. We try to keep it sports, but that for real, that did not help.
totally.
And plus, I do
some
agree too.
people
It's
say
too
that-
late. The game is too late. People's attention, to be honest with you, and I'm engaged with football, but I haven't been on his YouTube as much because I've had a lot of stuff going on. Just been busy stuff. But the thing is that for a couple of days, I was like, oh yeah, the championship game's coming up, right? Like, it gets out of your subconscious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's so long that you have to wait for this thing.
Yeah, you do wonder if they might shorten the intervals between games here.
They should have it every week, have a round. That's
Or
the way it's done in the regular season. That's
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good reason to have a longer break after the first round because then there's a pretty distinct advantage for a team that's if you have to play 6 or 7 days later, it's a pretty distinct advantage for the team that has the bye because that team can use the 2.5 weeks in regnum to scout both teams and be really well prepared
maybe.
and then
I don't know about that
the other
argument. I don't know about it since the bye teams went 0-4. I believe in theory.
But the other teams I'm saying this time they had 10 days, 10 or 11 days.
The only issue that
prepare.
I have the bye teams, though, when you look at the fact of who they were, and I've already explained. I think I talked about this to real, but it's also who the teams were. Georgia was not the second best team in college football. This team was an 8-5 to 9-4 team masquerading as a playoff team. Not a very good team. Weren't very good all season long, and then just beats Texas. Whatever they get in, they get the 2 seed. They were not that good. Boise, Arizona State, they're weak. We know that's why the system's dumb. They shouldn't even be that ranked that high. And then Oregon had to play a team that they already beat. It's hard to beat a team twice. It was just a bad confluence of matchups and teams.
Yeah,
I think that's more of the reason they lost than the bye. Now, if we have 5 and 6 years of evidence of this and all the bye teams just keep losing, then yes, I agree with you. I don't agree, though. I think that it was who those teams were and how those matchups went of why all the bye teams didn't win.
The way it's set up now, most years are going to expect the 3 and the 4 seeds to be pretty significant underdogs.
Yeah, I mean
against the 5 and the 6 seeds.
favorites. I mean, and if they are, it's a stroke of luck for them.
I mean, like Clemson, Miami, Florida, or I don't know, maybe a one-off team in the Big 12 who's really, really good one year. Maybe they'll be up there with those teams, but more often than not, the best teams are going to be in the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the SEC. Sorry, and those teams will be pretty significant, favorites.
Well, like how the national title, the comment was made that it was on like inauguration day, and that didn't help things. Well, next time there's a scheduling conundrum like that, because the inauguration once every 4 years is on January 20th.
Every single time.
Yep. At noon. So
just
the next
don't play the game on that day.
It would have been the simplest thing in the world to just move it back one day. Have January 21st.
Play on Saturday.
You
don't want to have it run up against NFL games, so I understand why you don't put it during the week.
So here's the solution. The Saturday night divisional playoff game in the NFL gets moved up to noon Eastern time. And what was originally going to be the nighttime game for the NFL divisional Saturday playoff matchup, you have the college football national championship on that time slot.
It should be on. It should have been on Saturday night.
Jackson, I just find it funny. You think the NFL is going to move something around for anybody? That's
no, they're not. They're not for nothing. No,
right.
No, they're definitely not going to move.
That's why Jackson should. They should do it, but they won't.
They're definitely not going to move a Saturday night game to noon.
But
that's not. That is not.
If the college football extended the national championship game to this Saturday, it would work because there's no playoff games this Saturday.
Steve is saying that my statement of Georgia not being very good. He's debating this again. I've had this debate about 1 billion times this year, and I don't blame you for bringing it up, Steve. It's you're valid to your opinion. I'm talking about compared to previous Georgia teams. This team was not very good. It was not a very good team. Barely beat Kentucky. Barely beat Mississippi State. Shouldn't have beat Georgia Tech. That game was rigged. I don't care what anybody says. That game was rigged. It was absolutely 100,000% rigged. Haynes King got his head blown off, and they didn't call jack. And there were so many bad calls in that game. I watched the entire game. They should not have made the playoffs. They should have gone 9-4 or 8-5. Not a very good team. In Texas, they beat Texas or whatever. Texas wasn't that good either. They didn't beat anybody. They didn't beat anybody at all.
Texas
and they barely beat Arizona State. They're not that good either.
Hold on. Texas is probably the second or third best team in the country.
I'm saying that Texas was overrated. That's what I'm saying.
Listen, their loss to Ohio State, I would argue, proves more of how good they are than anything almost anybody's done all year. Like, the fact that they competed against this Ohio State team and was 2 plays away effectively from beating this juggernaut Ohio State team, if they get the second and go running inside and go for 2 and get it, I think you're vastly underselling Texas. There.
Georgia had the potential based off
Well,
the talent.
the
They
thing,
weren't, and they only, I guess, were against Texas twice. Because
Yeah,
the season they were not good.
well, the thing about both of them is both of these teams are going to have a bunch of players
Look at
taking.
Alabama. Alabama beat Georgia. They're great because they beat them, but what did they do the rest of the season? Was it good? No.
Well,
That's
they
the
did
point.
dominate
Georgia
with
had a
Wisconsin.
good game.
We
twice.
sucked against
And
Vandy
really
and
only the
Oklahoma.
first time against Texas. They were good against Texas the first time.
Well,
The
hold
second
on.
time they weren't even that good. I'm saying the rest of the year they were not good.
But I'll say this: Texas and Georgia, they both have a ton of talent, and both when they're at their best are really, really darn good teams. We just saw them play down to their level of competition a lot this year. We saw them be. We saw them be. We saw them be unimpressive, undisciplined, very, very often this
And
year.
I'm not gonna
Well,
lie,
Sean,
I don't like defending Ohio State. That's not what I do. I get a lot of flack
No,
for
Texas. I mean,
talking down to
yeah.
Ohio State. But to Troy B's point,
Yeah.
if Ohio State didn't screw up a little bit in the first half on some
yeah.
dumb penalties, that game could have got ugly.
It could have,
It
but
was
we got to
getting
give.
there. It
we
was
won the
getting there
place.
fast. And Texas got very fortunate that Ohio State screwed up a couple times and they hung around. Texas really didn't do that good. And the only reason
Well-
they did is because their defense was actually solid. Quinn Ewers sucked, flat out.
I agree with that,
suck.
Jeffrey. My point is, Texas, in my opinion, has the absolute best defense in the country.
Because
so what's
they
going to
buy it.
happen?
They buy that defense. That's what
I don't
we
care.
talked about earlier with Dr. Buckeye. That
I
they
don't care.
spent more
That's
than
the
Ohio
rules.
State did. They got a great defense because they bought it. Their offense, though, is not very good.
I agree with everything you said, but my point was, if you win 27-7 and are just completely wash out the other team, that's not as impressive to most fans as if you win 49-13. It's just because people have a bias towards offense. In my opinion, Texas did play a lot of close games, but in all those games like Texas, Mississippi State, I didn't feel like Mississippi State ever had a chance to win that game. So I think we need to factor that into the conversation as well. And listen,
the final score, the margin doesn't always tell you about the
like Alabama beat South Florida 42-16 this year, but the game was
It was
actually
sloppy.
close at the end.
We looked.
Yeah, I
sloppy
agree with
going
that.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
I mean, I agree with Steve's comment about Georgia, Texas. Why? Because they've got so much talent. That's why there's not a lot of teams that can beat them. But
Well,
Georgia
I can name a lot of teams that could beat them. Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech got screwed against Georgia. Arizona State got screwed against Texas.
They both
Hold on,
did.
they
And,
both got
that's
hosed.
when people say brand bias. I mean, I don't like ever saying stuff like that because I just like watching the games,
And
analyzing the games like we all do. But I'm sorry. That Georgia Tech game actively pissed me off. It was wrong. It was flat out wrong. They stole the game. If Georgia loses that game, they Tessitore saying that if they win, they're in. Well, they wouldn't have been in Tessitore. They wouldn't have been in. Why
Why
did they get in? Because
Palmer-
Georgia's a money draw.
And
That's
that
why they got in. They
Oh,
shouldn't have won
yeah.
that game. It was flat out freaking rigged.
And
It was
that
rigged.
moronic clown who looks like he's about to giggle every 5 seconds, Jesse Palmer, was worried more about his stupid Bachelorette show and his stupid Food Network show than he
That was my
about-
rant, Steve. That was my rant. You got my weekly rant. I'm sorry. That game irritated me, and it will irritate me for a long time. Georgia was not that good. Notre Dame is a good team, and they just destroyed them.
Hold on.
Beck was out.
Destroyed.
Beck was out. I don't care.
I'm going to take a lot of exception to that destroyed label.
For standards compared to what I thought the game was going to be.
I mean, like, but
plays is what caused
Georgia was a team.
it was a strip. It was a strip sack and a kickoff return for a touchdown. Other than that, it was a fairly even game.
That's why Notre Dame wasn't great. They were really, really, really good, but that's why they
Yeah.
couldn't beat Ohio State. They needed to be better than that. I'm just saying that game should have been a game that Georgia won.
You know, my
That's what
question
should have
for
happened.
Georgia,
Even without Carson Beck, they should have won that
Did
game.
Jeffrey Freeze and everyone?
Points. They put up 10 points. They should have won. If Georgia was really good, they should have won that game, and they did not.
well,
Fair
like,
enough. Can I answer David's question in the comments there, Jackson? And this is something that's going to scare me. Is I don't think we're just going to go to 16. I see 32 as a real possibility.
No.
Yeah, I see. Listen, everybody's shaking their heads no, but listen.
No, I'm not shaking my head no because I disagree with you, Drew. I'm shaking my head no because it's stupid. That's
It is. But everybody had listen, this is what I was fighting back against. Well, not literally fighting back, but arguing against is if we expand it to 12, more teams are going to complain, more teams are going to want their shot. You've got the Big 12 fans still believe in BYU should belong in the playoffs this year, okay? And then we're going to have to add them, and then they're going to have 84 teams that believe they should belong, so we're going to have to expand it for those people. That's the way it is.
But the only
like
it doesn't matter how many fan bases complain. The only thing that matters is if they can make more money by expanding
what
it.
matters is
And I think they might be able to make money expanding it out to 16. I don't think they can make. I think the economic returns become diminished if you expand it out more than that.
Can we go down?
And the pushbacks from the coaches will be. I'm sorry.
The thing is, Jackson, is that when you have stuff getting expanded, it never shrinks. Have you ever seen anything shrink before? Stuff doesn't shrink. I mean, like, for example, bad example probably, but like look at like our government when it was first created. It was a lot smaller than it currently is, and it's gotten a lot bigger. And is it going to shrink? No, it's not going to shrink. Nothing ever shrinks. It's not how it works. Look at businesses. Do they shrink? No, they hire more people that don't know what they're doing, and then the company tanks. And the only reason companies exist still is if they're run decently enough once they get super big. But if they get run by a bunch of bad people, then it all goes down the tubes, like Sears, Kmart, whatever, all these other companies that suck. Point is, though, is that when you look at all the fact of this playoff being expanded to 12, and they're like, well, we made all this money, all these ratings for these games. It's not going to shrink. It never shrinks. It's just going to keep on expanding because these people are going to make more money. And the thing is that football is not basketball. It doesn't work that way. It just does not work that way. All these teams, oh my gosh, we want Wisconsin to have a shot to win it all. We want all. Okay, how's that going to work out when you make the playoffs at 8-4 and then you get murdered 50-0? It's really going to help the sport. The thing is, you need the teams that have a legit shot to win it all to make the playoffs because of the fact that in college football, you cannot play 100 billion games like college basketball. You can't do that. The players are just going to get beat up. It takes too long. You can't do it. And then 98% of the games are going to suck. That's why you need a smaller playoff with teams that actually have a legit shot to win it all. So the players aren't getting beat up. It doesn't take too long, and you're not wasting your money and your time. It's just dumb. Basketball's different. They're wanting to make it like basketball, and it's dumb. It's stupid. It's not the same sport. It's not the same way the game goes. It's just it's not going to work. Expanding the playoff is stupid. It is stupid. It should have never been to 12. These people think it's great. They think it's awesome, but it's not. It's not great. Most of us hate it. But we don't have any influence. We can't change the way they're going to do it. They're going to do what they're going to do. I agree with the real though. I mean, they might actually think they might be dumb enough to actually do that. But if they do,
I mean, this is the same.
Stupid. Yeah.
Shout out.
Hold on, Darrell. Shout out to the Godfather of the SEC, one of our YouTube members at Alabama Boys College Football, and he says 16 as tops is coming. Bank on it. Sorry about the interruption, Drew. I'm just making sure we give shout outs to our YouTube members at Alabama the Voice College Football because we want to make sure everybody gets their money's worth.
So I want to bring up just a little bit my perspective. Everyone knows here I'm a huge college wrestling fan. I've been to the NCAA tournament many times. There's currently 81 teams that sponsor Division I wrestling, and every year, there's 10 weight classes every tournament. Each weight class has 33 people qualify for the tournament. So 33 out of 81 get it. It's not super, super difficult to qualify. It's still a freaking amazing event. And you basically know outside of a few people in every weight class, no one has a chance to win. Like it's like 3 or 4 people per weight class have a real chance of winning, and that's it. It's still just an awesome, awesome event, and I really wouldn't change it for anything. But it also does sort of like make the regular season worthless.
Mm.
So all the positives and negatives, towards expanding it, they're all legit here. And yeah, wrestling's a different sport. Football's a unique sport from any other ones because
it doesn't work though.
You cannot like actually just keep expanding. But I also think you'll get a lot of pushback from some of the coaches here, like especially the coaches at the top of the food chain. It's like
you can't play that many games. You just can't. You can't
absolutely.
Do
it. And right now in this era of like player empowerment, you think these fucking first rounders want to play 6 playoff games?
No, they do
what
not.
I think is going to happen to get to 32 is they're going to cut out the FCS game.
Amazing.
And they're going to cut out the conference championship.
I see this comment right here from Dave here says the playoffs are the best games of the season. I don't even agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that at all. There was a lot of games that weren't good at all. There was Arizona State, I guess Ohio State, Notre Dame, but you had Ohio State, Oregon, you had Ohio State, Tennessee, you had SMU, Penn State.
Ohio State
wasn't that good. There was a lot of bad games. There was a lot of games that weren't good.
Ohio State and Notre Dame was not necessarily a good game either. It got fraudulently good. It got
I guess you could say, Clemson, Texas, like it was like,
right. But that was similar. It was fool's gold, kind of like maybe they have a chance, but not really. You kind of felt like, this
Indiana made it interesting against Notre Dame for like 1 second, I guess, and then they didn't get the 2-point conversion, and then it was over. It's like, okay, yeah, I agree. I mean, and then Dave's also said, talking about what I said earlier, wait when you say most of us hated. I think that's a step far. I thought it was great. Okay. When I said most of us hated, I was referencing expansion in the first place. Most people were against expansion until certain people in the sphere of the media made people want to like it. And then they were like, this is good. It's not good. Now, most people that I know didn't like it. But then they kind of got on board.
But I'll say that's something pretty typical for the college football fan base in general. It's a lot like the baseball fan base, like just very resistant to change and very steeped in tradition and very protective of that tradition.
Tradition's out the door. It's gone.
Tradition's gone.
Rivalries are history. I mean,
these rivalry games, though, they seem to be pretty intense still.
Yeah, but they're not like Sean. You admitted it a while back ago. I mean, I didn't listen. Next year, I'm not going to watch the Ohio State Michigan game if it doesn't matter because I learned this year one team can lose it, and then it has no bearing effect on who wins.
It's not as good of a game.
Did you watch it like during the Brady Hoke years and Rich Rod years when Michigan sucked balls?
Well, that's a little bit before my time, Sean. But
is it? Oh,
yes.
Oh, wow. It is.
Yeah, it's a little bit before my time.
Oh man, I didn't take you for that. I didn't take you for that young of a guy.
If you don't want to share your age, Daryl, you don't have to. But you're younger than 30.
That is correct, gentlemen.
Okay. See, I thought you were like 30 or something. I didn't.
No.
Okay.
My point of this all is I was more in the game that mattered more to me that I think it's going to be the oddity games is like Ole Miss versus Florida. Those are the type of games, the random games between two middling teams that matter significantly. I was more invested in that game than I was the Ohio State Michigan game.
Because the game actually mattered because if Ole Miss won, they made the playoffs, and if they didn't, then they didn't get in. But that game shouldn't matter. I said this last week and everybody went crazy at me, but I liked it better when the big games mattered so much. Ohio State, Michigan, and then the Ole Miss, Florida. It was just a good game. Now that game matters, and Ohio State, Michigan, it still matters, but it doesn't mean as much. I said that last week. I just like when things matter a lot, when there is a lot of significance to something versus, oh, wow, all this stuff matters. All these games, all whatever, but they all matter a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's like your birthday is significant, but what if you have like 10 of them sprinkled throughout the year? It's not as big a deal. You know what I'm saying?
What if you had a birthday week or a birthday month?
It just isn't as
well,
big
they
a deal.
celebrate birth weeks.
I mean, Jackson, that's really, really cool with Jackson. But that's not my point, though. I'm just saying that when you have more of something, it doesn't mean as much. So having Ole Miss, Florida matter as well as Ohio State, Michigan, instead of Ohio State, Michigan mattering a ton and that game not meaning anything, makes it just less of a big deal to me. And to Darreel's point, almost makes it where I don't even care about that original game, the original one that would have mattered the most, because it doesn't have as much significance. Whereas now this other game that didn't have any, that's a little bit, it's like, well, I'm going to watch that instead because it's something different.
But are you saying you prefer a situation where only a few games a year matter and most of the weeks it's just kind of filler?
Because I watch football to begin with. I don't want the game to matter. I don't want it to matter because you're artificially creating a situation that shouldn't exist.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
My point is we're kind of getting the worst of both worlds.
Yes.
Because Indy, let's be honest, Ole Miss doesn't have a chance to win the national championship.
If they kept Judkins, and they would have had like this much of a shot. But when he went to Ohio State, it's like, yeah, not happening because they can't recruit. They can't keep players to that point.
My point is this Ole Miss team didn't have a chance to win the national. SMU didn't have a chance to win the national championship. Clemson didn't. Boise State didn't. Right. Arizona State didn't. All these teams. And we're in this quasi where we're trying to value their games, but we're also trying to keep the national championship as the most sacred thing in the sport. And I'm just like, pick a lane. Either we go the full college basketball route. We have 32 teams. We have 4 playoff games at a single time. And we'll have, let's say, Iowa beat Michigan. Who was the 9th best team in the country this year? Like somewhere around.
According to the rankings, that would have been like
9th, but they were that. But that's
no. So it would have been like somebody to would have been like SMU or Boise State. Somebody
no. Let's say Tennessee. Let's say Iowa beats Tennessee, and everybody looks at that and says, that's a nice upset. Look at the Cinderella Iowa. Maybe they can go and beat Georgia in the next round. And everybody attaches onto them. But we don't have that capability because all these teams are so good where we view them, this team's got a good record. They might be, they're not really a powerhouse, but they kind of have that powerhouse aura around them. There's no real Cinderellas in the bracket. Does that make sense? There's not like a St. Peter's or an Oakland team. Where
college basketball is different. We see teams like Purdue lose to Ohio State the other day.
Right, but my point is
UConn almost lose to Butler. It just can't happen in college football. It doesn't work that way.
Right, I understand that, but my point is we should at least pick a lane. We should either glorify the national championship as the most sacred thing in the sport, or we should just play as many games as possible hoping to get an upset.
Well, yeah, I mean, the more games that you play, if you expand it to 32, you're going to get an Iowa over a Tennessee every now and then. But is that like a massive upset, though?
I think
especially most years that Tennessee is not actually like was Tennessee great this year? No,
but I think to the casual fan, because this is who it's geared toward, is the casual
fan. I think Tennessee was about as good as Notre Dame this year.
Right, you'll see Tennessee is like the number 9 team, and was unranked in their own 4. They just barely got in, and they pulled off this upset. I think that's the way the average college football fan will view. Now we understand
that, but why does that make them think that Iowa team has any shot to win it all? They don't.
When the average person roots for
that, they should be in the playoff anyway.
No, when the average person roots for St. Peter's and Oakland and those teams, I don't think the average person believes they have a chance to win it all. They're just happy to see the underdog beat.
I like it too in basketball because basketball's different. It's geared for that. And at the end of the day, a team that is pretty good to great is going to end up winning it all. But basketball, it's different. I mean, you can play games 2 days apart, and there are more frequent upsets, but it's like in college football, it happens so much less, and I don't know how to. It's just not the same. In college basketball, when a Cinderella wins, I like it. In college football, though, it's not the same. It's just Iowa beats Tennessee. That's not, like, to your point, Darrell, it's not good, because then people are going to be like, wow, that's why you should have these games. And it's like, whatever. I don't know.
I'll say this, though. College basketball has, for sure, rendered its regular season largely pointless. Most of the general sort of baseline sports fans that I know are really, really into college basketball for about a week and a half this year. It's like the first and second weekend of the NCAA tournament, they're really into
NBA. The NBA's in the gutter.
Oh, I watch the NBA. I still count.
I don't give one flying crap about the NBA until the playoffs, man.
No, but
I used to watch it sometimes, but when you turn on a game, it is just lifeless. It's just a bunch of games with the crowd half empty and a bunch of players dribbling around, chunking up 35 billion threes. I mean, it's just boring. There's no fight. Oh yeah, a fight broke out. They're really pissed. You gotta watch. Okay, that's not the same as like Lambeer slamming the ball around and hit people in the face and crap. And there's like legit hate. You know what I'm saying? Or like Dennis Rodman pissing off everybody and stuff like that. That's different. Whereas, we're mad at each other because like Draymond's kind of like a throwback player and no one likes him. Oh, that's cool. Or what? Or are there some egos or something like that? Or Jimmy Butler doesn't want to play now because the Heat's no good. Or Zion misses the team flight, so he's got to be suspended. That's cool. No, the NBA is lame. The NBA regular season is lame, and that NBA Cup in-season tournament crap is dumb. It doesn't do anything. No one cares.
I haven't even watched the
only time I turn on an NBA game is if there's a player that I like from college basketball that's on the TV at night when I'm still awake at like 11:30. So Jackson Davis is on with the Warriors. I'll flip it on for a few minutes. Other than that, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't watch
care. It's not worth watching.
But, I usually don't watch that much NBA until like Christmas Day.
I like college basketball still better than the NBA during the regular season. I agree with you, Sean. It is
although
useless,
I gotta do
still
better.
Watch it though.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying the end college basketball has created a product, and it probably works the best for them, where they get to be kind of like the big boy on the block for about 2 to 3 weeks a year, and the rest of the time, not a whole lot of people are paying attention to them.
Outside of diehard fans, which there are some.
Yeah,
right.
Some people that
and
like
this is my
basketball,
concern.
and that's it, and nothing else.
Right.
And this is my concern with having the expanded playoffs, because let's say we get to 16. If you're an average Ohio State fan, let's just say average Ohio State fan's got a 9-to-5 job. Why would you watch them play Northwestern? Everybody knows they're going to beat them, and that game, even if they somehow lost to Northwestern, would have zero impact on what they do for the rest of the season.
Point, if it was a 14 playoff versus the BCS, every game matters, because if Ohio State loses a game to a Northwestern, then they don't make the playoffs, or the BCS. Now, in a 16 or 24, or God forbid 32 team playoff, they could lose to Northwestern, Indiana, and Illinois, and all that, still get in the playoffs as long as they beat nine games. They're in.
Here's football has a bit of a different culture. Football has an extreme social culture to it. You've got the tailgating, you've got the alumni basis, and you've got, since it's a once a week affair, there's a routine to watching college football. Okay, every Saturday, even if you don't even really follow college football all that much, you still, some people still meet up with their buddies from college. And hey, we're going to go down to, we always go down to Phil's bar, and we watch the Michigan State game because we're all grads, and or we all go to East Lansing and watch this game. Football has a unique culture to it in that respect.
Sean, you are right, but I mean, think about the Kick 6 game. Think about that game.
Yes.
If Alabama loses that game today, they're still in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Does that game have as much significance? Does that game have the lasting impact it had?
No.
because
The
Alabama did not
the
make
the funny thing is that
championship game, and Auburn did. Just like Ohio State, Michigan last year. I understand that not every Ohio State, Michigan game has mattered that much, which the chat definitely let me know. What I'm saying is, though, is that those particular moments don't matter the same anymore. They just don't. Ohio State against anybody in years past mattered. You lose to Indiana. You choke to Penn State. Ohio State's done. It's over. They blew it. Now you lose a game like that, and it don't matter. That's what a lot of teams are going to do now. Just say Ohio State starts out of the gate kind of rough, right? Like they're playing Penn State, and they're just not feeling it that day, right? Well, who's to say you just throw in the towel and lose the game because you know you're going to make the playoffs anyway? Yeah. There's no point fighting back. There's no point caring. There's no point trying. Why? Why do it? Because if it's a 16, 32-team playoff, the game doesn't matter because you don't have to win that game. That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying for so long, and nobody thinks about that. It's over now. The can's been kicked. It's gone. It's a 12-team playoff. It's only going to get bigger from here. It's not going to go back. But that's what I can't stand, man. Alabama had to win every game to make the BCS. In the past, you had to win every game. Every single game. You had to be perfect.
But Auburn did win every game one year and didn't make it.
Right.
And that's why we
people
went
only
to 4. But that's why I should have stayed at 4.
Right. And then people will say, well, this team
Or maybe 8 at max. I don't know, but nothing more.
Right. And then people say, well, Florida State didn't get in, even though they had a backup quarterback and nobody believed in them. That's why we got to expand it to 12. And then there's going to be, like this year, Alabama didn't get in, Ole Miss, South Carolina.
Well, they were expanding to 12 with or without Florida State missing.
Yeah, I understand.
Sorry, but college basketball, Darrell's just saying it's an example. But college basketball, you got a 31-game regular season. All those conference tournament games, it's a different beast. That's why, we lost to our rival on the road. Let's get them back at home. It's all good. We can split. Carolina, Duke, we split every time. We lose at Duke and win at Carolina every year, blah, 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 blah. Football, it's 12 games. Football, every game had that significance. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois and made the playoffs. Played for a national championship, losing to a garbage team, a garbage MAC school. Did that game matter? No.
Nope.
Didn't mean jack. And it would have
it absolutely meant something. It meant Notre Dame could not lose a single game the rest of the year. Otherwise, they would be done.
Well, yeah, but it's the purpose of my point, though.
And if the seating committee did their job, they wouldn't have. I mean, like the seating committee, the playoff committee didn't punish them enough for that loss. They should have been like a fringe team that was like on the cusp.
Yeah, the seeding was atrocious this year, but my point, I think to Jeffrey's point, it's a whole lot different than if you lose, you're out, than if you lose, you're another game from being out. I think that's what he's trying to argue.
Doesn't have the same significance at all. Like Notre Dame would have just completely wrecked their entire season in the past, losing that game. We turned it around. We fought all the way back, and we got in the playoffs, and we made it all the way to the title. We learned from that game. It's like, well, you shouldn't have lost that game to begin with. And if you had to win that game to make the playoffs, then that pressure would have made Notre Dame win that game, right? But no, it's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I don't think it necessarily was pressure. I think they felt a lot of pressure to win that game. At least late in that game. Like, I'm sure they were trying their best to try to win that game.
I just think it.
But then how about this? Like Notre Dame, the rest of if their season could have been done in week 2 because they had one bad outing. See, this is a point I want to make. The 12-team college football playoff is still by far the most difficult postseason in major sports to get into. It's not even close. It's still the most meaningful.
And the funny thing about it is that used to not be the case, though, because before, really, when people thought postseason, it was bowl game. See, that's where the mind shifted, right? So now it's a 12.
Yeah, well, now
Difficult. Before it was a 2. It was BCS, and then you just made the bowl game. So you still made a postseason. But see, now people, all they think about is the playoffs. Kind of like Darrell was saying, who's in? It's not who's out. It's just who makes the playoffs. Then the rest of it just doesn't matter. The bowl games are not important. They all opt out. Who gives a crap? It doesn't matter. I don't know. All of this is just bad. It is just bad. I see what you're saying, Sean, but I just no. It's just, no. When you look at the fact that these individual games do not matter the way they used to matter, and I keep using Ohio State, Michigan. I used the kick 6 game, but it's still even games like Notre Dame, Northern Illinois. They don't matter because you lose and you still get in. It does not matter. You can choke, you can suck, you can lose, you can get your butt kicked.
Yeah, but do you think
you're not even punished? It doesn't matter. Why, as a fan, should you be invested in that game when it doesn't hurt your outcome? It doesn't.
Well, okay, but why should Darrell watch any Kentucky game ever? Kentucky is never going to win a national championship.
Kentucky win a national championship. It was the fact that they're a team that he likes, and if they make a bowl game, that was a big deal. But now that doesn't matter.
Right.
But if Kentucky can make the playoffs now, which they can in a 12-team format, it's going to be difficult for Kentucky. But that's they can.
Yeah,
and
but
they
the
can
point is, instead of being rewarded with the team we can beat, now we're going to get rewarded with the Penn State. I mean, Jeffrey saw this. Jeff, you played a team which you had no chance of beating. You had no chance of beating them. I mean, I'll be hyped because it's different, the pageantry and stuff, but how much did your excitement, Jeffrey, because you're an Indiana guy, you're probably one of the only people on earth in the fan base realm that understands what I'm trying to say. How quickly did your hype for we made the playoffs dissipate?
I mean, I knew when they made the playoffs that they were probably going to get matched up with a team that they weren't going to beat anyway. I mean, and honestly, right, I was favoring the Notre Dame matchup because if they got faced with Ohio State again or Penn State, it'd have been worse, I think. I honestly think that. I think it would have been. I think Notre Dame gave them the best shot they would have had. I mean, obviously, if they played SMU or Arizona State, they could have won. But that's not how the format is. So, yeah, I knew they didn't have a shot. I mean, if Indiana made a bowl game and played, like Missouri, been a good game. It'd have been a good game, right? I mean, maybe I need a better example. I think Missouri's a decent example. That'd have been a good game.
But I mean, like,
that's not how it works.
To back up your point, that used to be like the Outback Bowl.
Uh-huh.
And now that could, possibly be a playoff game if it expands to like a 16-team format.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, like when I'm saying what I'm saying, that a lot of people don't understand what I'm saying. But I know Darrell understands what I'm saying, and my opinion doesn't even matter because of the fact that it doesn't change anything. It's just how I feel. And honestly, it doesn't change. I'm still going to watch. It's not going to change like me from watching the sport. I'm still going to watch college football, but it has definitely hurt my enjoyment of the sport significantly. And like I said, I think everybody, I think all 4 of you, all 3 of you and everybody in chat, I think most people kind of get what I'm saying, but I think Darrell understands what I'm saying the best. And I don't feel like I'm crazy. I just think that a lot of people don't understand that the impact of certain games and moments in the sport have just been completely diminished. Like Jackson's an historian. He loves looking at all that history and stuff. Those individual games that he's talking about Alabama's history and these other teams, those games don't hit the same anymore.
No.
But then other games will. Okay, so I'm an Ohio State fan. This run that we just went through is by far the best experience I've ever had as a Buckeye fan. This is not close.
Right,
and
but you are part of the elite, and we are not. There are more of us.
Okay, but Alabama's part of the elite too, and he's talking about these memorable moments. That first half against Oregon, I will never forget the rest of my life. Jack Sawyer, pummeling his former roommate and scoop scoring 86 yards. That will be etched in my memory forever. Right there. I mean, like watching, that late throw to Jeremiah Smith to seal the title. I mean, like that.
I feel like
this run was full
But
I mean,
what
like,
the real is saying though,
half
is
of
like
historic
college basketball, where the regular season outside of dollar fans, it doesn't matter. What matters is that week and a half. And what you're saying is this run that your team went on was freaking amazing.
Yeah.
That regular season didn't mean jack. So to Darrell's point, the regular season games aren't going to have the impact anymore. Only these playoff games are, and that's what I don't.
The regular season though is necessary for what
Yes, it does.
for what happened to happen.
Doesn't mean what it used to mean. Because before you had to be on your best behavior every game. You had to win the game. Now you don't.
Why should a game in week 1 or week 2 ruin your entire season?
It shouldn't, but that's how it was. So you had to be good. You had to win.
Yeah. But Notre Dame.
It should, because this is the most valuable regular season in all of sports, and what
now
separates
the college football's regular season is significantly less of a big deal now, and
I think that's fine. I think we have a better postseason.
But I don't.
Right,
I don't
but do we want to become?
I liked it better when it was the BCS and the bowl games. I'm sorry, I'm 21 years old. I'm young. And I liked it better when it was the BCS in the bowl games, because I watched all those games. I watched about 5 bowl games this year. We talked about this before. It's the significance. I care about the significance when it comes to this sport, because this sport is the shortest of all the other sports that I care about. Baseball's all right, but baseball's too long, too freaking long. Basketball is arguably too long. Football is this short, condensed sport, and now you just stretch the crap out of the postseason. The bowl games don't mean jack, and the regular season means infinitely less. It's just irritating.
I'll tell you this: I watched a lot this bowl season.
Going away.
This bowl season, I would say, like it felt more significant than it has in years.
Just because the games were close doesn't mean that the games were good either. That's the problem.
I saw almost every game, both teams caring very much about who won.
Players did on the field, but the players sitting out didn't. Can I respond to this comment from Mark? Because this is where I think the rubber meets the road. I agree with the first half, but I kind of disagree with the second half. Because the far more meaningful for more teams, it feels like a facade or illusion.
Ole Miss, Florida.
Right, because even that game, while it does matter more, we all know that Ole Miss, or we all suspect Ole Miss and Florida can't win the national championship. So my concern, and this is Josh Pate's concern this year, is what if we're year 5 or 10 of this thing, and a 4 seed or a 3 seed has never even been competitive? What if the 11 seed, like in the SMU,
a 4 seed went to like 3 overtimes?
But that was the Darrell's point. If that happened, then it would have just validated people's point. And I hate that I'm really siding with Darrell because of the fact I usually don't, but you're not wrong. You're literally not wrong. You're not. Because even though I wish in a perfect world that 25 teams had a legit shot to win a national title, it doesn't work that way. It's 4 to 6 teams. It just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Indiana will never have a shot to win a national title unless they freaking pay $25 million and get 5 stars all over the freaking field.
But why is this the only sport that wants to exclude the playoffs to just the teams that we objectively feel
when they don't have a shot to win a title? That's the problem.
But this is the only sport where we feel the need to sort of one is where we arbitrarily choose it based on our own.
Already arbitrarily makes it where those teams can't compete. It just is impossible. See, a 2-star player. Does anybody remember last year? They were in the NIT. That Robbie Avila guy. That dude was nothing. He was like, just nothing, Indiana right? That guy, Larry Nerd. That dude. That guy's nothing. And guess what? He's pretty good because he can score. But in football, when you got this big 6'7", 350-pound lineman for Ohio State going up against the wimpy dude over on freaking Citadel who barely weighs 250 pounds or whatever. That's more like Alabama, but who Ohio State played, like Northern Illinois, whatever. And even teams like SMU just don't have the bodies. They just don't have the bodies. A garbage team in college basketball can outshoot a good, talented 5-star led Duke team in a tournament game. It can happen. But they can't, or Kentucky, because it just happened last year. But it cannot happen in college football. It cannot happen.
And this is my point. I want to respond to this Carmen remark. And this is what I'm talking about. It mattered to those teams because this is their first time in the playoffs. But what if we're in year 5 or 10 of this thing and none of these level teams win a game? What if that happens then? Then is it going to mean the same thing to those fan bases? Let's say the Big 12 is 0-10 and they lose by an average of 25 points a game. Now, I know this year they almost won. But remember, everybody points to that 07 team, the Boise State team against Oklahoma and says, you know what? The group of 5 can compete against the elite of the Power 4.
The UCF team that beat Auburn.
Right. They just point to the outliers and they don't go over the last 20, 30 years of precedent. It's like people who say, well, App State beat Michigan one time. Therefore, App State, they can beat anybody in the country whenever they
won
play
the
them.
national title and they went 8-5.
Right.
It can happen, I guess.
Hold on. That Penn State Boise State game was not close. And the Texas Arizona State game, let's have the 5 and 4 seed play, the Big 12 play the elite of the Big 10 and SEC, and let's see how often that game's going to be close.
No, but that's a whole point of a single elimination bracket is that you introduce some level of variance, and that occasionally, even if you're not quite as talented, you can rise up and win. You can maybe even put a couple upsets together and have a magical run.
That doesn't happen in the sport.
What are you talking about? Arizona State arguably should have beaten Texas. And I was not arguing. They should have beaten Texas. Like they got hosed.
Hold on. Boise State never. I'm sorry. I watched that Boise State Penn State game. I didn't feel Boise State ever had a chance to win that game.
5 times. If they didn't turn it over 5 times, then they would have had a shot. Genty fumbled twice. Madsen threw 3 interceptions.
Right, but Jeffrey, how much of that do you think is a credit to Penn State's defense being so much better than Boise State's offense? Yeah,
because they recruit way better than Boise State.
Right, and second off,
recruiting in college football matters more than any other sport. If you do not recruit in the top 10 in the rankings, you can't win a national title basically ever.
Right, and Jeffrey,
Michigan did with recruiting classes that I think averaged outside in the top 10.
That's why I said basically ever. Michigan's not a good example.
Why are they not a good example?
Because they're a program that can compete for a national title. And they're a program that had like 5th senior dudes that came back. And they had a game against Alabama where Alabama choked. That's why. Michigan's also not that's why I kept saying earlier this year, people are like, Illinois is better than Michigan. Oh, they beat them, and they had a better record. Michigan was a better team.
Yeah, I'm just going back over the Penn State-Boise State game. Even when it was 24-21, I didn't feel like Boise State had a chance in that game, personally. Now, maybe it's just
had a shot if they didn't turn it over 5 times. But I get but that's saying that Penn State forced it. But Boise State kind of gave those away. Genty's fumbles were on him. He never fumbles, and he was just on him. And he played He played Oregon, and he didn't fumble. But
that one on the sideline where that was a good play by the Penn State defender where he caught it inbound. I mean, that was a good play by Penn State. To catch that ball inbounds, keep his feet inbounds, and have it go the other direction. I never felt like Boise State was competitive in that game.
I agree with that statement.
My thing is that if Alabama is 11-1 or 10-1 rather, and they play Auburn, and Auburn's like trash, like they've been forever, and they lose that game, it doesn't matter. That's what irritates me. That's
fair.
Like. That's what I don't like. I don't like that. I'm sorry, but I don't like it because that game should absolutely matter, and it doesn't. They lose that game, it benefits them, especially the way the current system is, because they're going to get a better spot in the bracket. It's just bad. I don't like it. Alabama losing that game helps them, just like it helped your team, Sean. It helped your team to lose to Michigan. It helped you. I mean, isn't that sad? It's wrong. Like, why can't people understand that?
But why? I mean, it helped us because it made us better, and we had a
it made you
chance.
better, and I've argued in that favor, but it shouldn't be that way.
Right.
That's
it should be
point.
where they have no chance to win the national championship because they lost to one. They just lost to a bad team.
Alabama almost made the daggum thing, losing to Vanderbilt, Oklahoma.
Yeah, two mid to bad teams.
Vanderbilt and Oklahoma,
Like
and they
Michigan.
almost made it.
Right.
And that's good. I don't understand why that's good.
This is still by far, out of any major sport you'll find, the most difficult major postseason tournament to make.
Yeah, but
it's not close.
And that's still the problem, Sean, is it
be inclusive. Sometimes things need to be exclusive.
Right.
You know
And we have the most exclusive postseason in the world of sports right now. And that is still not good enough for you guys.
Correct. There's only 5 teams mainly who can win the national championship. So why are we pretending teams 6 through 12 has a chance? If there was teams,
why does the NCAA tournament pretend that St. Peter's has a chance? Why do they pretend that Canisius has a chance?
They don't. Wait, basketball's a different sport, though. It's wired differently. It doesn't matter.
Right. Jeff, what you're getting confused on is people don't watch, in my opinion, I could be wrong. I don't believe the average person is watching St. Peter's because they can win the national championship. People's watching St. Peter's because they're on the Cinderella run. Nobody's.
Are people watching Boise State because they believe they can win it all this year?
The scary part is if you look at the TV ratings, people just aren't watching Boise State, Penn State compared to as much as other teams.
Go look at the basketball ratings. People aren't watching Canisius and High Point or whoever.
Yeah. If they're not playing in the March Madness, I completely agree with you.
No, but they're not watching those games during March Madness. It's like, okay, we can have a game. It's between Siena and Duke, or you can watch a game that's between, like, I don't know, Missouri and Utah.
Right, but my point is,
and they're more likely to watch the Missouri-Utah game.
Right.
Unless the game between Duke and Siena gets really close late. Then they'll turn into Duke.
Right, and that's why I say this college basketball is more geared toward upsets because you have 4 games on at one time, and normally during that window, there's one game that's an upset. But if Duke Siena at halftime is 26-28,
talent can win.
Yeah.
Right. And also, to Mark's point, I don't understand he said there were 3 mismatches. I thought people viewed Texas Clemson as a mismatch and Notre Dame Indiana as a mismatch. I thought people viewed those games as mismatches. It could be just me, but
Clemson was not a mismatch.
You don't think they were a mismatch against Texas? They were what? A double-digit underdogs?
Yeah,
I consider that a mismatch.
That was a close one.
So I wonder what he considers a mismatch, because I would basically consider Ohio State and Tennessee and Ohio State and Notre Dame to be mismatches.
Yeah, I would too.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know if we're just looking at the lines, the spreads here. An 8.5 point spread is not a mismatch.
Agreed.
It depends on the context, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, it depends on the teams.
Right.
No, but I not many people were giving Notre Dame any chance at all. How many people did you listen to that predicted Notre Dame to win that game?
Every Michigan fan outside of that,
Mark
zero.
said there are multiple double-digit upsets every week in college football.
Why? There's also like 70 to 80 FBS games every week. So
there's got to be
you have a huge
expansion. I'm not saying Mark's saying that about expansion.
You have a huge haystack to find some needles in.
But it doesn't justify expansion. It just doesn't. It doesn't.
Well, Jeffrey Mark's a pro. He was pro 12-team playoff. That's probably why.
I don't agree. I mean, the main reason that I don't agree more
I
so.
don't know. I had heard Mark's. I think Mark thought that 12 was the right number, but he didn't like the concept of buys.
Right, that's correct.
So,
but
the
Jeffrey
difference between me and Darrell on the playoff expansion is that Darrell's saying he doesn't want expansion because all the games are going to be blowouts for the most part. And the reason I don't want expansion is because it has ruined what made college football great. And that
Jeffrey,
regular
I agree with
season
that.
was so important. The games mattered so much, and now they don't because you can lose and it doesn't mean anything. That's what I don't like.
I agree with all that as well. My point is we're kind of in the worst of both worlds because we're having 12 teams in this playoff. The 12 teams we have, I don't even believe are the 12 best teams that can win a national title. So I think you may agree with me here, Jeffrey. If we expand to 16, we may have a paradoxical situation where more teams can win the national championship if we expand to 16 because we're getting more at-large bids. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because Alabama can win the national championship.
Wait, you think this Alabama team could win a national championship?
If they played, listen, that first half against Georgia, I know it's just a random one-game sample.
Kind of like how Georgia played against Texas in that one game in the regular season, but then the rest of the year they suck.
Right, but my point is that in that game showed me more than anything that SMU did all year, Indiana did all year, Boise State did all year.
The most impressive thing Indiana did was beat Nebraska 56-7.
Right, and even that, when context of playing Ohio State, Notre Dame, and those teams isn't really that.
Well, I would say the most impressive thing Indiana did all year was basically completely annihilate and drown the first 9 teams you play. That's a really, really hard
And in the 3 teams that they played that had a pulse, they beat Michigan, and then Notre Dame didn't get completely embarrassed, and then Ohio State pretty much killed them.
No, I agree that
the 66-0 win over Purdue didn't do anything for you, Jeffrey?
I mean, it was beautiful. I could watch that all day because they.
Jeffrey, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you being held against your will with your last behavioral change in the last 2? Blink twice for me if you're being held.
I'm not. I don't know. I'm honestly tired. It's 1 a.m. The thing is that Indiana is not a team that can win a national championship. I was glad they had the season they had, but it's still, if the playoffs was smaller, they wouldn't have made it at all.
Do you think that Indiana team was capable of springing an upset against a top 5 caliber team?
Yeah, I'm going to say this. I think they were not that far from doing it against Notre. I'll say this: there was a point in that game. Indiana throws an interception.
Yeah, the pick. Yeah,
the pick, and then a 98-yard run. Up until that point in the game,
Indiana was much more competitive against Notre Dame than SMU was against Penn State.
Yeah,
by far.
But
which doesn't mean that Indiana had a legit chance to win. But if they don't throw the pig, it would have been more interesting. But it's still, again, Indiana had no shot to win at all. But like I said, that's why I blame the format. The 12-team playoff is why they got in. They should have never got in if it was a 14 playoff. I've said that all year. I don't know. I mean,
I completely agree. And my point is, as a fan who wants to see the possibility of upsets, again, it's just my opinion. I believe having Alabama and Ole Miss this year was more likely to give us an upset or two than Indiana and SMU. That's all I'm saying. And next year, Ohio State, I could have this exact same conversation about Ohio State as the odd part. Let's say they lose to Texas, Penn State, and Michigan. I'm going to be here arguing that Ohio State team should be in the playoff field, assuming Michigan, is 9-3 or 10-2.
Good question, Mark. Good question.
This is a great question because I don't necessarily think you can automatically just assume that this. But I don't think you can automatically assume the CFP would have just ranked it exactly the same.
Oh no,
who would have gotten it? Or Oregon, Oregon.
According to the rankings,
we would have had Oregon and Georgia in 100% for sure.
Yeah.
Probably Texas for sure too.
Let's see.
Georgia should not be in the playoffs.
They
No,
would have been in.
we would have definitely had Oregon, Georgia, Texas.
And then you've got this spot between Notre
There-
Dame, Penn State, and Ohio State.
Yes,
I
exactly.
feel like there would
that would have been the interesting one.
Ohio State was not getting in. No,
I
I think
feel
I
like-
think it would have. I think it would have.
Well,
I don't think they. I think they would have been Notre Dame because they would not want a direct rematch.
Ohio
Two direct
State would
rematches.
have had no shot to get in with their last game being a loss.
Yeah,
to
because I remember.
No,
when
wait.
I had-
Why would Penn State have a shot to get in? Ohio State had an easy
Penn
case.
State, the only reason they had a shot was because they were ranked the 4 seed based on this criteria.
Yes.
So that's but in my opinion, if we
Yeah.
had the 4-team playoff, they would have moved Penn State behind Ohio State. The only reason, in my opinion, is they kept Indiana at 4 was because Ward Manuel made that comment about not punishing teams
Penn
that
State.
lost conference championship games. Which is what, in my opinion, hurt the playoff field more than anything else. We need to use the conference championship game as a legit data point to move teams around. Ohio State,
Especially okay, go ahead. Sorry.
they should have been the 5 or 6 seed.
Well, especially nowadays, like when teams have like such wildly disparate schedules inside of conference play. Like you could take like 2 conference teams this year, look at their conference schedules, and they may have like 1 or 2 common opponents.
Right.
Like,
And this was,
so I mean, like sometimes like teams are going to get in. I'm sorry, I keep talking over people, but sometimes teams are going to get into the conference title games solely based on their schedule, solely because they got lucky with the draw of their schedule. That's going to happen. So it doesn't make sense to not use that data point. It doesn't.
Mhm.
Well, my problem with it is then if that's the case, then what's the point of even playing these conference championship games? Because if you win, you get screwed basically, and lose, you could have a better play.
If you didn't have a conference championship game, then Penn State would have been in the college football playoff in a 4-team.
Right.
Okay, so if Notre Dame was in the supposed 14 playoff for 2024, like if there was a 14 playoff, there would have been a lot of backlash for sure. Like, because I remember when I had on Carter Bryant from Power Hour LSU, Power Hour SEC, Power Hour NFL on a Jack Shine episode a few months back. He said that, because I remember he was a big advocate against Notre Dame being in the playoffs simply because of that loss to Northern Illinois. Whereas, like, he said if we had a 4-team playoff era this year, Notre Dame would not be in the playoff race because of the lost to Northern Illinois.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't agree with that. Notre Dame did have a chance because a lot of the other teams jacked up. But here's my thing. I still feel like, and I could be 360 in here and backtracking, but I honestly think that the reason why you saw so many apathetic performances this year, more so than usual, is because we had a 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
Honestly, look at Georgia. I mean, really. I mean, I've trashed them, said they were no good, but what if it's a 14 playoff? Do you think Georgia puts in that performance against Kentucky and Mississippi State?
I think it's entirely possible. I don't think that. I think the problems that has much more to do with the problems within the Georgia program.
I agree that it does, because I still think the team wasn't that good. I'm just saying that we saw a lot of games this year that were apathetic from really good teams.
Yes,
because you could lose and still make the playoffs. I think it's a mindset. There's a much different thing between we have to win or we don't get in versus we can lose this game and still get in.
There's also a difference between apathy and burnout. Here, I mean, the college football season is pretty difficult to go through. For a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old kids here who have, a lot of other things going on in their life. I mean, you're just not always going to have your your sharpest and best performances as a team, and you never are.
Yeah.
As an athlete, as a competitor, like you can't be at your very, very best all the time.
I agree with that.
And I think it's okay that we forgive that the landscape now is a little bit more forgiving of some errors along the way, especially because those errors are the things that help you grow, are the things that make you better.
But it doesn't.
Right, but the way you're making that sound
it doesn't teach you anything though. It's almost like a participation.
It's teaching you a ton.
Saying that you can suck and it's okay as long as you get better. Versus,
that's exactly the best lesson you can ever learn. It is okay that you suck as long as you keep working and getting better. That is the best lesson anyone can ever teach anyone.
Why can't it be though in a given season though, like Ohio State, where this season they lose the 2 games, miss the 14 playoff, but then next year they learn from the mistakes and make the playoffs because they grew as a team. But see, we don't look at that anymore because you don't even keep your team because the portal and all that, and plus Ohio State would draft guys, but that doesn't happen either anymore. So
this Ohio State team earned this championship about the hardest way possible. This was a team. This was through a 4-year process. This team earned it.
No, because the point is this loss to Michigan should have been the end of this Ohio State team.
Yes.
I would have replaced should have with would have. And any other year prior to this season, it absolutely would have been.
Well, they would have been out, yes, but we're saying that they should have been out because they should not have been in at all. But the 12-team playoff allowed them to be in. And again, Ohio State deserved to win the championship. They were fantastic, but they shouldn't have been able to.
Right, and the thing is, for the Oregon season is now just a complete joke. They deserve.
Yeah, it kind of is.
How is it?
They didn't do the one thing that matters because the playoffs has made it where the only thing that matters is the national championship. Literally, the conference championship doesn't matter. Your rivalry game doesn't matter.
Think about this. That depends on your perspective, though.
Just say Oregon loses to Oregon State, but wins a national title.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
It doesn't matter. They won all their games this year. Their season means nothing.
Right. It's honestly forgotten about. Like when we talk about
sick. It's
right,
sick.
I'm like, Oregon fans had a fucking phenomenal ride.
Really? Because I was watching that post game with Exploring with Ben and Spaz, and they look pretty crashed out on it.
Yeah, that's what happens. I mean, like sometimes, like you get really, really high, and then you really. If they had a 5-7 season, there's no way they would ever be that down after any particular game.
Imagine Oregon made the BCS and lose. Yeah. It's a better year.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
This was an incredible season for Oregon fans.
The first round of a 12-team playoff.
The second round. They got a bye.
The first round they played in.
Yeah, they won no playoff games.
Okay,
they did as much as
you see the difference psychologically. If Oregon makes the BCS and loses, they made it to the end. They got to the finish line. They didn't now. So yeah, their season was garbage from their perspective. It's a lot worse to have an undefeated year, make a 12-team playoff, and lose the first game versus in a BCS. Win all your games, win your conference, and then lose in the title game. Yes, it's worse to lose in a 12-team.
Let me ask you this.
Oregon fans got to watch their team kick ass through an entire fucking season.
But am I wrong? Am I wrong, Darrell Jackson? Am I wrong?
I don't believe so, but I think Sean just has a different worldview of this. Jeffrey, I'm going to ask you some questions.
I agree. I have a different worldview.
I see where he's coming from. I just don't agree.
But Jeffrey, let me ask you this, and I want Sean's opinion. Like after I ask you these questions, who had a better season, Oregon or Notre Dame?
Notre Dame.
Oregon or Ohio State?
Ohio State.
Oregon or Penn State?
Penn State.
Sean, same question.
But they went further.
Oregon had a better season than Penn State without question. They beat Penn State. They beat Penn State. They won their Big Ten. They actually won the conference title.
It doesn't matter anymore, Sean, the way it used to. It doesn't matter. That's the problem. It doesn't matter.
But that's all subjective and touchy feely. Like it doesn't matter. Like I'm sure most Oregon fans appreciate the fact that they have a team now that competes at the highest level of football. And like occasionally, every team is going to have like this. Ohio State will probably have a year where they make the playoffs and they're highly seeded and they get trounced in the first round. It's not like I'm going to discount everything they did.
Would have had a better year if they went to the Super Bowl and lost than if they lost in the first round, which they did. You know what I'm saying? It's the same.
Yeah, but every line. That's exactly my point. Every Lions fan, I think, every Lions fan, I live around a whole bunch of them. They love this team and they appreciated this season.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone's disappointed. Nobody's bitter. Nobody's resentful.
College football wasn't built this way, though. You had a BCS national championship game, and if you lost in that game, it was a better look optically. It was a better look. You know what I'm saying? Because you made the end.
But how about Oregon last year? Like, how great was it? How satisfying was it to like take a crap on Liberty? Like, is that a better ending to the season than losing to the eventual national champions in the playoff?
I think only because it's Liberty. Literally only because it's Liberty. No. But if it was any decent Power 4 team, then I'd say yeah.
Like Oregon, Georgia. What if Oregon beat Georgia somehow?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow.
And yeah, I just think this is fascinating because I think I finally got to the heart of the difference between the pro-expansion crowd and the anti-expansion crowd.
The thing is that I like this conversation. I know we've had it before, but I feel like we've gone deeper than we ever have. You're right. I mean, I've never talked about football this way before. Like I'm literally, I feel like philosophic here, and I'm like, nah, I'm not into that sort of thing. Because I see Dave here saying this comment. I mean, like we're really getting deep here. I mean, I'm not trying to like break down. I'm not breaking down. I just miss the way football was before. I'm just telling how I feel about why I don't like the new system. And I get your point, Sean.
And it's quite uncomfortable for me because I'm not the person usually to be like the most optimistic person in an argument here. So it's
well, you are this time, but my Mark and his he was more aggressive toward me than he has been in 2-3 years. And I think that shows how deep the camps are divided between the pro expansion crowd and the anti-expansion crowd.
I mean, it's deep. I didn't realize it was this deep, honestly.
Right.
I have not engaged in these circles. If you look at my channel, have I ever really talked about the playoff and with the expansion and stuff? I might have mentioned it with Mark a couple times, and said I didn't like it, but I haven't really talked about it in this way.
Right.
And to answer Dave,
honestly, it's almost invoked more feeling in me than I've ever even had about it because I felt this way, but now I really feel why I don't like it because we had this conversation.
Yeah.
To me, and this is my opinion, and this is what I've heard other people say. Very few. Do you watch NASCAR?
No.
The motorsport?
No, I don't watch NASCAR.
Okay.
No.
Last time I watched it, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was there.
Let me give you a 2-minute
Were you even alive when Dale Earnhardt?
This is pertaining to college football, I promise. In the 1990s, there was a debate over which sport was going to be the number one sport in America going forward, NASCAR or the NFL. That's how big NASCAR was. What happened? They had the chase, which was an expanded playoff of 10 races. Okay? They had 10 drivers. But you know what happened? Somebody got screwed one year and the sponsors wanted more money. So they expanded it. And then what happened? More sponsors wanted into the thing. So they expanded it to 16. And then you had a win and you're in format where if you won, you automatically got in. And then you had an actor do a commercial about explaining the whole thing. And to me, that's the direction of college football's going. we're just expanding it, and the first 26 races in NASCAR doesn't matter.
The engine
Because you-
stuff didn't help either.
Right, but you win one race and you're in. You win one big game. Let's say Ohio State beats Texas in week 1. What's the odds of them not being in the playoffs? Realistically, it's 0%. They're in the playoffs if they beat Texas. If Texas
No. I'm like, there's a chance that both of them are overranked next year.
Sean,
One of them.
the winner of that game, I'm just telling you from a practical perspective in my worldview. Jeffrey, do you agree with me? The winner of that game basically has no chance of not making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
It's very, very unlikely, but I'm saying like it's, there's there's at least like a 5% chance that they blunder in some way during the season.
I mean, Sean's technically right too.
Right? Yeah. There's a chance that they're both wildly overranked and they both have kind of disappointing seasons next year.
Listen, I get that. And I understand from a logical perspective, they both could. They're Texas and Ohio State. I mean, the last time Ohio State.
When has Texas ever had a disappointing season where they've been ranked highly? Right.
A lot. But Darrell, Sean, we can definitely continue this discussion on CFB After Dark on Sunday night. Darrell, are you a YouTube Patreon member of The Voice College Football? Or
no, I might be getting one though. I've been thinking about getting one here. You have to pay what, the $10 to get it?
To be on CFB After Dark, yeah.
Right. I was kind of hoping Mark would join this conversation because he seemed pretty adamant about the whole playoff discussion. I'm just curious why he doesn't see it the same way.
Me and Jeff don't get it.
Right.
I mean, you would think that a lot of older people would be against it, but I've actually talked with a lot of older people and they're like cool with it. I'm like, why? Like, I'm young and I don't like it. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, am I literally older than a boomer in my head? I mean, I don't know. Mark's not a boomer, but I've talked to boomers that don't.
Mark it's
expansion.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Mark.
I mean,
wait. Mark probably is a boomer, isn't he?
He's X. He's X.
Gen X.
Gen X.
Wow.
Jeffrey and I are Gen
X. Sounds quite out. Does it?
Gen X is from like 1965 to like 81. Millennial is 81 to 97. Gen Z is 2012.
Yep, I just made the cusp of Gen Z.
Yeah, it's better than the latter half of the millennial. The early millennials are fine, like the ones like the early to mid latter 80s, but the 90s ones. I don't know.
Are you making that comment just to include present company?
Yeah, because I know I have
Sean,
members who are older millennials. They tend to raise their kids pretty decent. They're pretty good. Then the younger ones are like 30. It's all iPad kid. It's just bad. You know what I'm saying? It's all I'm saying. And I mostly judge generations by how they raise children because it is a big deal. I mean, if you're going to stick your kid in front of an iPad at the age of 2, then his brain's probably going to be fried by the age of 3, and then he has no shot in life to actually ever have a competent thought. So that's just my opinion. I want to comment on Dave's here, though. Yes, it's the cars. They made the cars all the same. It's trash.
No, NASCAR was going down before the cars changed.
I agree with you, Darrell, but I also agree with this comment though, because it was the final nail in the coffin. It really was. I mean, I have the old like PS1 NASCAR games, man, with the rubber banding, where if you're in second place, they just beat the crap out of the tail end of your car. And you got the Pontiacs, man, and the shed, all the freaking different cars. You got Dale Earnhardt driving.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's just.
I agree with all that.
Play a newer NASCAR game, and it's garbage. It's garbage.
I agree with everything you said, but from the NASCAR circles that I've been in, the thing that killed the sport was the chase and the expanded playoff. And that's why I'm so adamant in these discussions, because I see my favorite sport, college football, going down this exact same path.
But I'll say this: NASCAR and college football are in no way similar in their in their development arc as sports. NASCAR in the early mid 90s, I don't think I heard anyone like ever talking about it. It was one of those things that it sort of became a fad.
Well, yeah, but my point is NASCAR
it was humongous for a pretty short period of time.
Gentlemen,
and then it went back to being kind of a niche sport.
My point is that's where I'm afraid college football is going to be. It's going to be.
But college football's never been.
I know, but we can definitely continue part 2 of this discussion on CFB After Dark because we want.
Jackson's done. He's done. I mean, I was done
like
about an hour and a half ago, but I mean, we were digging deeper and deeper, and I just kept going with y'all. So
yeah, we had each other just examining life, examining what we knew about what is.
It was a very civil conversation.
But we went down some rabbit holes there. There's no question.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I think I understand Sean's worldview more now than I did before. Because when you talk about it, you get surface level. Like Joe Klatt, I talked, you hear him talk about it, it's like, we're just, you hear the same talking points. We're giving more teams a chance and all that. And just, you hear the same talking point. But with this conversation, I understood the why they believe that.
Yeah, because you don't ever hear that. And that's what made this conversation. Like, I know only like, a couple hundred people heard it, but like it's something that I think more people need to hear.
But
why do you feel the way you do? Why do like you just can't be anti or for something? There has to be a reason why.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a direction of conversation. People need to have more different topics. Maybe some even more relevant than college football. With each other in our lives, we need to have more of these conversations.
There we go.
Well, we don't have Mark should have a political channel. He should have Steve Dace on there. I don't know if you know his other show, but he's pretty political.
He has the Blaze TV show, the Steve Dace show, and he hosts the Michigan podcast, which I mean, he does like both shows, which I'm like, well, hell, he can do that.
And I mean, I consume a lot of political content. I'm definitely not on Mark and Steve's side of the aisle there, but I would
Sean, you have no offense. You have a blue sky. We all know what side of the political aisle.
The real said it. I wasn't gonna do it. I wasn't gonna do that.
No.
We know you're out there with the you're out there with the destinies of the
and
world.
That's the thing. You can always tell though, like what people's social media is. I hate that, but you can tell. Like people got Blue Sky and Threads, or if people got like Rumble and
Gab
and
Parler.
Okay.
I'm just personally for me, I'm just gonna catch them all because it's like this way.
Jackson's got like every app imaginable. Like, dude, I wouldn't even want to remember like to sign into all that junk all the time, man. Like
that's what the password book's for.
Yeah,
there we go.
Oh my!
Yeah,
God.
it's not Unfortunately, we live in an age where your political views, if you have any social media at all, it's just exposed based on what platform you have.
It's sad. It really is. And in their bio, people put their bio, oh, I'm this or I'm that. It's like, okay.
The flags are my favorite thing. You see a Ukraine flag, or you see
you got like an American
eagle
flag,
or something.
like I'm a patriot, and then you got like the I don't even want to say it. I don't know.
Yeah. No. Everyone's got a signal somewhere.
I'm not saying it. I mean, I'm not. Yeah.
Me, I'm just like it's on like what I have in every one of my descriptions is like
Or you also have people put. I'm sorry, Jackson. You also got people put like he, they, or whatever is like okay.
Oh yeah. The pronoun. The pronoun.
Well, hold on, Jeffrey. Sean has a blue sky, okay? He has a blue sky, so we may not want to offend him, okay? I've seen a lot of those blue sky people with like they, them, or freedom fighter.
I'm just saying, though. I'm just saying, like you already know. I mean,
I know, but
all I know is I don't care. Dude, people do what they want. All I know is that you look at me, you can tell I'm a dude. I mean, I'm a he, man. I mean, I don't know. I'm not he man, but I'm a he. That's all I got.
I mean, like everyone.
I don't know though, Jeffrey. You look like you might be on some testosterone therapy. Like,
Thanks, Sean.
Oh man, like
my
every one of
God.
my profiles, it says, I'm operations assistant manager, voice college football, Crimson Tide Live host, hosted the Jackson and media inquiries. You can find me at my media inquiries, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is my bio. This is my Twitter bio right here. Sports YouTuber.
By the way, I just
with
realized this is
analysis
an
on
amazing
college
way to plug
football,
our stuff.
basketball, NFL, and NBA, and then all that.
Yeah,
That's it. Simple.
This is
What'd
why
you say, Drill?
kids.
I said this is an amazing way to plug our stuff. It's a good. Can we go to Sean's Blue Sky account and see what he has on there? Would you mind that, Sean?
I don't like update any of the bio stuff at all. So
Well,
on either app. So I need to do that. I need to personalize my account a little bit more.
I think if
Both
we
of them.
had a
Both the Twitter and the Blue Sky accounts.
I think if Mark, though, had a political channel, it would probably be one of the most diverse because he has people I could tell are far left and hardcore right, and I would just love to see the clashes between the two.
Dude, it would be a meltdown. Here's Jackson, like the operating manager says it would be a meltdown now. And the funny thing is, it probably would be the channel with the most subscribers. I mean, it really would.
yeah.
It would be the channel with the most people like giving like I hate you, I'm never gonna listen to you again, and then they listen to like fucking everything. And then they listen to everything you do afterwards.
Them again, and then 2 days later they're listening to them again.
Then 2 days later you see them in the chat again and be like, hey, I thought you weren't coming back.
Yeah.
Huh?
Like I've seen people, I love it on Twitter though. You'll have someone be like, I hate you, you're trash, and they're like, well, why are you following me then? And it's like, well, I want to see what you got to say.
No.
Oh my god!
I mean, like
social media is such a trap, man. It's such a trap. I know when I get engaged on Twitter, it's bad. I mean, you get these long debates with people. It's like, no.
I know when
I know, but maybe a comeback guy.
Well, apparently, I learned from tonight's discussion. I am probably about the only person here old enough to remember MySpace.
Yeah, I saw Troy.
When I was little, it was still kind of relevant. I had a couple of older cousins and siblings that had.
That was my high school days. I was super resistant. I never created a MySpace, but it was kind of the big thing up until I was about like the end of my junior year of high school. Then people like got off of it and went to Facebook.
I heard about MySpace on a Boondocks episode, but like that's
hey, I need to send that mashup. My nephew looks exactly like Riley Freeman.
Oh man,
he
sounds like
he has a. In fact, I showed my mom the old picture of Riley, and it was like, she said, "Did someone make that? Like, were they copying? Did you send them a picture of Theo?" And like, no, he looks. I mean, like, just totally a
man, John Witherspoon was a freaking legend, man.
John Witherspoon. Who? Okay.
Yeah, but he's like,
we're getting pretty close to the demonetization with how crazy the Boondocks was. Okay, we're creeping up to that line.
Yeah, which is why we got to tell
quote that show. You cannot quote that show. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, don't nobody go in the bathroom.
Is Aaron McGruder a copyright hound, or what is he?
No, Sean, it is the most like you would
Nobody
like
going to the
your
bathroom for,
politic
45,
political
45
view
minutes.
compared to what the Boondocks is like
Oh, I know.
so far in the other direction that you would like be aghast. There's so much racist, vile content in that show.
No, but that it was a leftist kind of show.
Yeah. But it
Maybe.
was a funny show.
I guess.
No, I mean, the right wing characters in that show were kind of like meant to be kind of like the villains, like
all
the
I know is like King of the Hill's
Yeah.
like slightly right, and then like I guess South Park's kind of like in the middle, I guess, and then like Family Guy's more on the left, and Simpsons is kind of on the left too. That's like my knowledge of adult animation.
I hope
That's
at
about it.
some point I can get to a point where I can get like Seth MacFarlane on a Jack Sane episode.
And I don't
Like,
really care because I mean I've watched all 4 of those shows and they're funny. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, I don't really care. I don't watch cartoons for politics. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you could just kind of tell.
But like,
not
I
the
just gotta admit, like that guy is a freaking comedic musical genius. Like,
Oh, he's very talented with his
Wait.
voices too.
Who are we talking about?
Seth
MacFarlane.
MacFarlane.
MacFarlane, yeah.
Seth
Oh my
MacFarlane,
God, Archie,
Family
funny
Guy,
as hell.
Family Guy's early.
Archie Bunker, yeah.
Yeah, he always called it,
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I mean, that's what the Uncle Ruckus character from the Boondocks. He was I think he was kind of modeled after the Archie Bunker.
only this show.
Boondocks
Go
is
from
fun.
talking
It is.
about
I've seen
Alabama
clips
football.
online. It is hilarious, but it's like, God help me.
Yeah, it's different. Jeffrey. It's built different.
It is funny though. I mean, it'll make you laugh, but it's like, I mean, like I said, I watch cartoons for humor. I mean, I don't care. I don't care about the politics of those shows. I mean, it's just they're funny. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you get a laugh out of it, that's all that matters. Oh my God, Sanford and Son is a great show. That is a great show, man.
Hear me, Elizabeth?
Give
Honey?
you a knuckle sandwich.
I would join you.
So good, man.
Red Fox, that dude is hilarious. But Sean, before we get sidetracked somehow into 5 a.m. Where can people? What have you got going on in your world?
Darrell wants to know about that blue sky. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, Darrell, jump on the blue sky with me.
Well, I hate to disappoint you, Sean, but the only social media account I ever had was Getter before it got nuked in January 6, 2021.
Wait. Are you not? Are you not counting your OnlyFans?
Well,
I thought that was Parlor that got nuked.
I think Getter got nuked as well.
Yeah, I remember
Getter's
Parler.
still on.
I think I remember.
What is?
Yeah, Parlor's. Yeah, they got destroyed.
Oh, then it was Parlor that I had. I had a Parlor, and then it got nuked.
But you're completely ignoring the blue sky, the OnlyFans.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Sean. The way I look at it is that the way I feel is that like when you're on a platform like Parlor, you know, or True Social, like you're only on people that are on the right, and then when you're on like Threads and Blue Sky, only on the left. Like when you're on like one that's in the middle, like YouTube has everybody, and X is everybody. That's the way I feel.
I do kind of find that, yeah, like a little bit boring. Like
I like the debate. That's my thing. Like even if I don't agree with someone, I like the debate. Even though if I get sucked into the debate too much, it's a pain. But when because I've never really been on those platforms, but I've seen them. Like I've seen some of the stuff, and it's like everybody's just agreeing with each other. It's like, why do you want that? Everybody's just agreeing with you. It's like our world was designed for everybody to have different opinions. Like that's what I don't understand. To me, I don't.
Jeffrey, let me explain this to you, okay? You have the 95% of stuff you agree with, and then you argue over the 5%. That's what happens.
People will argue about fast food. Like is McDonald's better than Burger King? They both suck. Like, who cares?
That's the 5%.
We spent 3 hours arguing over a 4 or 12 team playoff tonight. Like,
yeah, because I care about it.
Yeah. Anyway, Sean.
You don't see me
what-
arguing about
Okay,
the
okay.
lacrosse tournament or whatever.
No.
Hold on, guys. We've
No,
only
but-
got like
Let
3.5 hours. before we head
Jackson
off.
let me answer Jackson's question before he plays me off here.
Yeah, Sean, what have you got going on in your world this week? Tell people where they can find you.
Okay, Jackson, you can drop the links to my Twitter and Blue Sky accounts. Feel free to follow me there.
Okay.
I'll try to follow you back if I can. And other than that, since there is no more college football, since we fucking won it, we just won college football. We do have some portal issues here coming up and some NFL draft stuff. I might have some takes on those. Other than that, yeah, I'm just going to be like relishing in the glow of this 5-degree weather that I'm experiencing up here in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah.
And I will just it's pretty chill existence for me the next week or so. I'm not going to lie. Don't expect a whole lot from me. I'm just going to be celebrating and enjoying everything that's going on.
I appreciate you for coming on tonight, Sean. It led to a very thrilling show.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Are you guys going to be back next week, or what's the programming plans for the off season?
We're back next week, of course.
We're gonna try to keep this thing running every week.
Every single week?
We'll see what happens. I don't know. Because Mark likes the shows every week. That's like the format. It's gonna be kind of tough, man. It's gonna be like some dry weeks. It's not a lot to talk about, but we're gonna try. My schedule is Jackson. I know will be fine. But my schedule depends on my schedule. If I'm good to go, then I'll do everything I can. But
yeah, like we'll definitely get everything figured out for sure. But we'll make sure.
Well, all you Dixies, appreciate the conversation tonight. It was a pleasure. I'll see you guys all next week if I can. Take care.
Too. And Darrell, what have you got going on this week before you head on off to bed?
Well, I guess one of the first things I'm going to do is ask you, what's the process of buying a membership to join the After Dark show? Because I may actually buy it this time. So,
well,
Jackson,
you can be on there every Sunday where you can co-host with Exploring with Ben and Friends, where you can talk a lot about college football and you can give out any content request of any kind to Mark. And let me show you the YouTube memberships.
Yeah, no problem. Why do you have a Jets helmet just circling?
Oh, yeah.
The Jets?
Well, my dad got me a flying helmet in Christmas of 2021. It happened to be a Jets helmet. And plus, I like the Jets on account of the fact that Joe Namath was the quarterback there in the 60s, and I love watching like the highlights, of course. So it's like I like watching the Jets a lot as a little kid. But yeah.
You see Darrell, like you go to the Voice of College Football, you see where you got like videos, shorts, live podcasts. You go to membership and you click on that, and then you do it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think and it through how is it done, Jackson? Is it like PayPal or something like that? I don't know.
Oh,
what is it?
You basically
I think you do a credit. I think you just use your credit card. I think, right?
Yeah, I use my debit. Oh hell, I don't use credit card.
I'm just saying. I don't know how that stuff really works all that well, man. I did a while back, but like I don't know, man. I'm not good with that.
You use PayPal or Venmo or Cash App, or you use your debit card. Like me, I use my debit card to pay for YouTube membership, Patreon membership, but for $9.99 a month, you can become a Heisman member at the Voice of College Football, and you can give out any content request of any kind, and you can be on the panel for College Football After Dark Sunday nights on the Voice of College Football, where you can give your take on the latest news and notes of college football.
Okay, I might do that because it's interesting having those multiple people. Normally, like, it's hard because me, Adam Lamparello, and Jeffrey seem like we're the only people with this. We're not only, but the main people in this community with our worldview. So I may hop on one of those,
Mhm.
Well, I may hop on, I may buy. I don't know if I am or not still. It's got to see how things go. But what I'll be doing this week, I'll be watching the greatest quarterback of all time do his thing and beat the Buffalo Bills, be 4-0 against Josh Allen, be the first quarterback to be 4-0 against an opposing quarterback in the playoff. I'll be calling in to whoever show, talking about how we're probably going to win the Super Bowl once again. And I guess I'll be calling in here and trying to fill up the show with either basketball talk or just railing on the playoffs again, which is something that needs to be done every single week because that thing is my enemy, the thing that I believe is ruining the sport the most. So that's where I'll be. I'm thinking about creating a Twitter account, but I've had it before and it's pretty toxic. But I may do it.
It's rough, but I mean,
you should create a Twitter account.
Debate. If you can handle the debates, then it's passable.
Well, I've been on here. Do you think I can handle it? I did pretty well.
Oh yeah, you can. If you're willing to stay up till like 1, 2, 3 a.m.
Yeah, we definitely can't do this every week. Like with the snow and all that. I'm kind of got.
We're gonna be
time,
but
otherwise, I would be like Jackson. We got to wrap this thing up. Like even Jackson was trying to end the show, and like I wasn't letting it happen.
No, not that. My point is there's going to be so many dry weeks from here to like what, May or April with the spring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot to talk about other than big picture stuff like the playoffs, seeding, and all that stuff.
But can't be staying up late every week doing that.
I understand. I wasn't expecting to. I just enjoyed that conversation.
It was a perfect week.
It's fun.
We don't really have too much going on right now, so we're able to do it. But yeah, I'm like right after this show, me and Jack are probably gonna be like in bed immediately.
Yeah,
I got you. I'm sorry for keeping you two gentlemen up later.
I know I'm gonna be asleep in like 5 minutes. So that's all.
All right, man.
Good seeing you all, guys. I'll see you all next week.
See you soon.
Appreciate it, Darrell. Have a good night.
Man, it's like
I'm so exhausted, man.
We're bushed. But before we go, we'd like to remind you for $2.99 a month, you can become a Christian Faithful member for Alabama with the Voice of College Football, and in return, you get a member shout out and custom emoji using the comments and in the live chat, loyalty badge next to your name in the live chat and comments. For $4.99 a month, you will get priority reply to comments and access to monthly hangout from yours truly, Jeffrey Only Taught Sports, and Johnny Burt's. And in return, you become a Saban disciple. For $9.99 a month, you can connect on social media with each of us and give out content requests of any kind. In return, you can become a Bear Bryant legend. Neither rain nor sleet nor snow will stop us from fulfilling your content request. And let me tell you something. It's a wild ride. Jeffrey, what magic have you got cooking on Only Talk Sports and on Indiana at the Voice of College Football?
Definitely try to bring back the Will and D show. Me and Will during the week. We haven't been able to do that last couple of weeks, but try to bring that back for Only Talk Sports and try to fit in my chaotic schedule some videos possibly for Only Talk Sports. My YouTube channel. Definitely appreciate it. If you guys haven't already, go subscribe over there. Definitely a lot of content already on there, but definitely try to have more on the way in the future. And also Indiana at the Voice of College Football every week, Tuesday nights at 7, talking about the Hoosiers and the great season that they just had and in the future. Hopefully they'll continue to be really good with Kurt Signetti. Definitely appreciate you plugging, the show. I definitely just had a show this week. A lot of fun, so definitely appreciate if you go check that out. And my X account where debates rage strong over there. Even the most innocent take can get roasted on Twitter. Definitely appreciate if you go check out my YouTube channel and Indiana Voice College Football my X account. And definitely appreciate you guys for being here every Thursday night at 10 o'clock. Me and Jackson doing Alabama the Voice of College Football. The college show is always a bunch of fun, especially when we have Darrell and Dr. Buckeye, Sean Garner. It's always a blast. And some new faces as well. We had a new face as well tonight. It was a lot of fun. So appreciate you guys for tuning in.
There we go. And you can check out my latest episode, The Jat Sane, with Trevor Trowbridge, the staff writer at Irish Breakdown. It was a great conversation. We talked a lot about Notre Dame's path to the national title. Would they beat Ohio State? Could they reunite the Michigan rivalry? Was conference realignment done to the rivalries? Will we ever see Notre Dame join a conference? And so much more. We had a fun conversation on episode 59 of the Jacksonian. Episode 60 of the Jacksonian with Mike Debate of Locked On Patriots will be releasing sometime around Saturday, but we will film it on Friday night. Let me tell you, that will be a fun ride. We will be talking a lot about Mike Vrabel being hired as the new head coach, what the roster's looking like, what was 2024 like, and so much more. And I can tell you, it was a fun ride. And, of course, I do Buzzer Beater with Will and D on Jackson Johnson 979 and the Pits Analysis Final Whistle with Sports Talk with Austin. And I'm 106 subs away from magic number 500. I'll need all the help I can get to get into 500 subs on Jackson Johnson 979. And for more updates on what I'm doing on the Jacksonian and on Alabama with the Voice of College Football, check me out on Jackson VOCFB on X/Twitter, Jackson Johnson 543908 on Instagram and Threads. But if you don't like Twitter, Instagram, Threads for whatever reason, check me out on Blue Sky because apparently, because like Mike Debate was saying, skies are blue, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess skies are blue. I mean, I don't know how blue they are. They look.
I never would have known that, Jackson, if you didn't tell me.
That's all right, man. Yeah, but he's just like, well, skies are blue. It's like, okay, I'll take your word for it, I guess. But with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss no video whatsoever. And we will see you soon. We will see you Monday afternoon, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Central Time, where Johnny Burt's and I have the latest episode of Crimson Tide Live. And Jeffrey and I will see you next Thursday. Take care, everybody.